All right. I believe we are live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another episode of the Xbox 2 podcast. And with me, as always, is my good buddy, Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, man?
Hi, Rand. Hi, buddy. How you doing, friend? I'm feeling nice and festive. I've just been visiting family for Christmas. A lot of my family's got all their Christmas decorations up. I have none. So I wasn't feeling very festive until today when I saw all the Christmas stuff knocking about. But I am feeling a bit Christmassy now. I have to say. How's your week been,
Well, you
friendo?
just got a present. You just got a Christmas present as we were ready to. You were like, I got a. What'd you call it? I got a parcel in the mail. Is that what you said?
Yeah, parcel. That's what we call them in Britain sometimes. Yeah, I got a random Christmas gift from Turtle Beach, which was unexpected. A nice festive Turtle Beach Christmas mug. So thanks to them for that. But yeah, man, it's starting to feel the Christmassy holiday season coming on. My brain's starting to shut down, and I'm just sort of thinking, I need some of that Christmas break right now, Frank. But how's your week been, man? How's your week been? Has everything been all right in Randville, USA?
Yeah, everything's been pretty good. I mean, you know, we had the Game Awards last night, which we're gonna be talking about at length because there's a lot of things that happened, and I want to make sure to tell you about because James Shields is in the chat. He's like, "Morning, guys. Rand, how's the hangover?" Because I was in a party with James and a few other people, and it was absolutely hilarious. And I got to retell the story about that because it's just really funny. But Jez, I know, you know, people have differing opinions on the Game Awards and stuff like that, but come on. Hellblade 2? Alan Wake 2? I mean, you know, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy today. You know, all things considered. Even though Psychonauts 2 didn't get an award, I think Psychonauts 2 was robbed for the most part. You know, I'm feeling pretty good on this Friday. Yes, thank God we're doing the show on a Friday. I did not want to do this tomorrow. But did you? I know like the Game Awards is pretty late for you. Did you get a chance to check it out at all?
I was sort of like, I was trying to sleep, and some days I can't sleep. Today was one of those days, which is why I had a nap earlier to make sure I was nice and alert for podcasting with my buddy Rand. But I didn't watch the show. But I did check out some of the trailers last night and also this morning. Just to see what I missed and stuff like that, but I didn't watch the show itself, so you're gonna have to regale us and update us for those who missed it in a bit.
Yeah.
But Rand, before we get into topics,
okay,
I've got to tell you about this week's sponsor.
Is the Xbox 2 podcast still powered by Manscaped?
It is indeed powered by Manscaped. And do you want to hear an epic ad read before we get into the nitty gritty?
You were practicing it before we started the show, and it's pretty good. So tell the people all about what they get if they use code XB2 in the checkout for Manscaped.com.
Well, everybody, what the Game Awards don't tell you is that every award winner is a proud user of Manscaped. Disclaimer, may or may not be true. What Manscaped gives you is maximum performance in an affordable package, all for your package. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you get lawnmower body trimmer, a weed whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, crop preserver ball deodorant, and crop reviver testicle toner to maximize your ball hygiene routine. This makes for one epic gift package this holiday season, and it can be yours for 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. That's code XB and the number 2 at manscaped.com. And thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this podcast.
So You're saying that everybody who won an award yesterday uses Manscaped, but that may or not be true, right? Like disclaimer.
May or may not be true. Disclaimer: may or may not be true. But yes, I like to believe that everyone who's high performance has a high performance package, such as the ones provided by our good friends at Manscaped.com. But yeah, oh damn, I'm on the wrong account on the YouTube chat. I'm gonna have to switch that over. But yes, Rand, thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video, and we'll proceed henceforth.
Yes.
Forthwith from now.
Yes.
Oh,
we have a super chat here before the show even started from B Martin 001, who said Rand and Jez are the best podcast duo in gaming. Looking forward to a great show as always, boys. Keep up the awesome work. Man, we're the best duo. That's some high praise. We also got one from Space Dovakin who says Xbox is hitting on all cylinders and it's kind of scary. Love you guys. Keep up the great work. Best Manscaped podcast ever. So you even got some ad read within, the show itself from Super Chats.
awesome.
Sin Vendetta, our buddy, and I'm sure, I haven't read this yet, but I'm sure it's probably something to do with Dark Souls because you're playing Dark Souls. He goes, hey, Rand and Jez, happy Friday. Ready for another Xbox 2 podcast. Halo Infinite is out. It is. Jez is playing through Dark Souls. He is, because that's all he's talking about before the show starts. And Elden Ring won most anticipated game, which it did 2 years in a row, which is funny because the most anticipated game category from the Game Awards has basically been the exact same for the past 2 years because games keeps on getting delayed. He goes,
That's
life is pretty great. Yeah, for you, I bet it is, Sin. Jez is playing Dark Souls finally. He's loving it. You should hear the stuff he's saying to me about the game and how it makes him feel compared to modern games. I don't know if he has the balls to say it on the podcast. He might try to sugarcoat it, because he doesn't want to piss anybody off. But yeah,
I do like my hyperbole when I'm talking to you. But
yes, you do.
Well,
we'll
talk about that in a moment.
You know what's funny? Jez DMs me before the show yesterday, and he's like, "Hey." He's like, I think Silent Hill is going to be at the awards show. And I'm like, Silent Hill? I'm like, no way. Like, what? And he goes, yeah, a source just told me, what was it? A legendary horror IP game is being announced at the Game Awards or something?
Yeah, I got a couple of sources on that there was going to be a horror IP announced at the Game Awards. And of course, I'm going to think Silent Hill, right? What else could it be? It's not going to be Resident Evil, and then it's like we already know about Dead Space. So what else could it possibly be? My mind even went to Eternal Darkness. That's how how far away off the mark I was here. But it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, wasn't it?
Indeed, it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Didn't see that coming. My buddy Gopher was going crazy in the party chat when that was announced.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was actually wearing a t-shirt, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre t-shirt. So he's like, what? Sin also says, haha, wow, Jez got more and more American sounding all throughout that ad read. Yeah, Jez is doing good with his ad reads. Achievement says, Psychonauts got robbed, not won award. Yes. I was awaiting it's like, okay, it's art direction. Surely Psychonauts 2 is going to get an award for art direction. Nope. It's like best narrative. I mean, come on. Psychonauts 2 has an incredible narrative talking about really important things, but nope. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy won that, which, to be fair, a lot of people do say has an incredible narrative. I haven't finished the game, so I can't speak on that. And it was best game direction. I'm like, come on, this is Tim Schafer's baby. Everybody knows Tim Schafer. This is a sequel 17 years in the making. He's gonna win that. Nope, doesn't win game direction. And I was like, well, no, definitely not gonna win game of the year at that point. So yeah, Psychonauts 2 got the short shrift, but wasn't alone. Ratchet and Clank also didn't get an award. So I mean, it's in some good company, as people would say. So. Flame says, I like the show, but only because I know now if I order from Grubhub using code NWalker, I can get a free emote and free delivery.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this. Did you hear about this, Rand?
I did see the commercial, and I did see that they... So, you get free delivery and you get a free emote in the game. Is that what goes going
Yeah,
on?
a pizza remote. How
Oh
cool
my.
is that? That's the best promo ever.
Okay. Are you gonna? Oh, that's probably U.S. only. You can't
Yeah,
do
of course it
Grubhub.
is.
So what if
Of course it
what
is.
if I order something from Grubhub using Endwalker? Could then I give you the code so you could
Maybe.
use in Final
Actually, yeah.
Fantasy? Is that how
Do
that would
that.
work?
Do that for me. That can be my Christmas present.
Okay.
Do that for me for Christmas.
Do you still play
I
Final
haven't
Fantasy 14?
I haven't played for a while because I've just been busy with work. And when I play Final Fantasy, it sort of soaks up all of your time. Like all of it. And I'm not ready to go back into Final Fantasy 14 yet. And I'm nowhere near Endwalker yet, the expansion. I'm like a million years away from getting to Endwalker. I've got to go through 2 more expansions before I get there. Or is it 3? I think it's 2. But it's gonna be, yeah. I'm thinking I might play that over Christmas, the Christmas period, when I've got a break or something. But I also kind of just only want to play Dark Souls right now, and I'm also reviewing a game, and I might be reviewing another game. So even more of my time is gonna get soaked up probably. But
Yeah.
oh well,
BC in the super chat
first world
says,
problem.
"Hey fellas, will Starfield run into the same fate as Forza Horizon in terms of not getting out in time for Game of the Year nominations despite making the cutoff?" We've talked about this. I think we talked about this last podcast and maybe even the one before it, but I guess it bears repeating. There is that possibility. Talking to some people, Jez talking to some people, I think part of the problem with Forza Horizon was when that a lot of the judges panel for the Game Awards had already sent in their nominations, because you wrote about this in your article,
Yeah.
and that you can update your picks, but a lot of people didn't know you could do that. So Forza had kind of come out too late to essentially have people really change their picks.
Yeah.
Starfield could run into the same problem because Starfield's coming out on the 11th of
Well,
November.
I've got a feeling, Rand, that after my article, they might make it a bit clearer that people can update their picks if they want to. I've got a feeling some of that stuff's going to change next year, maybe. But who knows, man? I think hopefully next year they've got a little bit of a cleaner system in place. You know, I'm not on the jury, but all I can go on is what the jury told me, because you know some jurors felt like it was unfair that They felt it was unfair that I'd laid the blame on them and said they didn't consider Forza just because it was a racing game. And they were like, this is unfair because the reality is that there just wasn't enough time to give it a decent look over because the servers didn't go online until the 5th. So even if they had like single player access, Forza is a totally different game when it's online, right?
Right.
It doesn't. It's supposed to be online. So I don't know how they could have given it like a decent, real sort of assessment, I guess. But, we'll see what happens. But you shouldn't, take these awards too seriously anyway, because, at the end of the day, the devs are going to get the game out when it's best for gamers, not when it's best for award shows. The award shows are like a nice to have. I think a lot of them think of it that way. But it's not like they're going to be like, oh no, we need to get this up quick so we can get into the Jeff Keighley Awards. No game dev on earth is thinking that way. Maybe Kojima, but like no other game dev's thinking that way. So they're not gonna delay Starfield for the Game Awards, and they're not gonna rush it for the Game Awards. So don't worry about anything like that.
I mean,
it shouldn't affect your enjoyment of it either way.
Yeah. I guess it really depends on how early they send out review code for Starfield.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly possible that it doesn't make the cutoff, but we'll just have to see. Wagerman, what's going on, buddy? He says, finally caught the show live. Hope you have a great upcoming holiday. Side note: Square and Atlas still stunning Xbox. What's up with that? Is that really a surprise? There was quite a few games that they showed yesterday that were just exclusively not on Xbox. The
It's so funny.
the new not new, but like Persona 4 Ultimates Arena or whatever the hell it's called is
Yeah.
coming to what, like PS4, Switch, and PC, I think.
And the
Um,
original version of that was on 360 too, if you didn't know.
yeah, and it's not coming to Xbox, and of course, people have been asking for Persona. We finally got Yakuza, the entire franchise, to come over, and everybody's kind of shifted to like, what about Persona? And we've talked about this earlier in the year. We had heard rumors that things might proceed with Persona, at least for the mainline franchise, but I haven't really heard any updates about it. Have you?
No, I think at this point, like, they might have pitched Microsoft. The way Microsoft's probably approaching it is like, what's our return on investment here? You know, and Atlas is probably saying like, to make it worthwhile for us, we need this much money. And Microsoft's probably like, well, we're not going to make a return on investment for this, so it's just not going to happen. So I think that's ultimately what's causing this situation, is that Atlas want money and Microsoft think they're asking for too much money, you know? And you can look at Steam data to see actually like how popular these games are. And they are getting more popular, but they're still quite niche. And I reckon Atlas is probably asking for more money than they should be, maybe. So they'll keep plugging away at it, and maybe like one day Microsoft will have an install base that's too big to ignore. It certainly seems like the Xbox Series S is helping them catch up a bit there. But right now, they're still way behind PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 combined, like a million miles behind. So until that is fixed, this is going to be the situation with Japanese games a lot, I think.
But you know what's interesting is, I don't know if you saw the sales figures come in for Famitsu reported for like last week in Japan. Basically how like the biggest sales week in Japan, where Nintendo sold 200,000 Switches in a week, right?
Wow.
And the PS5 sold 1,500. So like,
Is that all?
yeah, 1,500 PS5s last week. So
What did Xbox do?
maybe, I think combined between Series S and S, maybe like 700 ish. But like, it's either Sony's diverting all shipments for the PS5 to Western markets, Europe and North America, or I guess or they just don't care about Japan anymore. So it's going to be interesting. You talk about like Persona 6. If you put it out for just PS5 doesn't really have that big of a user base in Japan, and PlayStation got like all the big mainline Japanese franchises this past generation, and now they're not really shipping a lot of PS5s to Japan. They're not really selling a lot. So it's like, here's Persona 6, but Persona 6 going to come out in Japan and not sell a lot because there's not a lot of PS5s. Does Atlas kind of be like, you know what, maybe we should go with the Switch instead, because clearly that's the one that's dominating in Japan.
Well, I think the truth is that they're just gonna make it for PS4.
Yeah,
Frankly,
I guess that's possible. Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna see the PS4 and Xbox One get completely cut off. Maybe we'll see the Xbox One cut off, but I don't think you'll see the PS4 get cut off for a while. Similarly to how like the Xbox 360 didn't get cut off for a while. Just because the install base will be there, especially in a game like Persona, which doesn't have the most photorealistic graphics in the world. So I think they'll still make it for PlayStation 4 even, and probably continue to just skip Xbox, unless Microsoft can really like prove that they've got an install base for the Xbox dev kit, whether that's via the cloud or Xbox Series S, I don't know. But it's clear that there's still a huge gap between where Xbox wants to be and where like we want them to be in Japan. There's still like a huge amount of work to be done.
yeah.
So
Andrew says, for an award show celebrating games, it definitely feels like a show celebrating marketing. That was a tough watch, even with dope trailers. I mean, that's kind of what me and Jez has been saying for a while now, is that the Game Awards isn't really about the awards. Like, I appreciate what Jeff is trying to do. I like Jeff a lot. But when you're essentially giving away 5 awards in the span of 10 seconds and not even mentioning the nominees and not having people come up to accept the awards, the criticism is valid. The Game Awards is not a show celebrating the year in gaming. The Game Awards is a marketing event for game companies to showcase their upcoming products and just fill it with constant advertisements. And maybe that's like what you have to do to have an award show like this. I don't know. I don't know what it costs to run. I don't know what the overhead is. I don't know what it takes to have all these companies involved, but like when you're essentially giving away one award in an hour, you're not an award show. You're a marketing event. And I think me and you have been talking about this for a bit. I know I've said this on other podcasts, but like it's about the new reveals. It's not about who won Game of the Year. Like,
yeah.
It's
why I didn't feel any like desire to actually watch the show. I'm just like, well, I can catch the trailers in the morning at a more reasonable hour. It's like I'd speak to devs about it, and devs feel basically the same way. They like the show because it's like a Christmas news beat that they don't have to pay for. Like if you're a Microsoft and you're like, should we make an XO event? It's very expensive to do that, or do we just piggyback on the Keeleys and like let him use the Microsoft Theater in LA or wherever? So that's basically how it's all gone down, really. Is that they let Jeff have the show for the marketing beat, and that devs often look really to the DICE Awards for their actual award show, or the BAFTAs or something like that, I think. Because this is really is just a marketing event. Very good marketing event. But I think it's pretty bad that they just blitz through the awards and don't really give them the time they deserve. I don't know. But also COVID frustrates that. Like if you've got loads of people backstage, you're not socially distancing, whatever, and you know, a lot of people are really conscious about that. I think it would present differently if it wasn't a COVID era too. I think doesn't LA have like more strict rules about some of this stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, it might have stricter rules. I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah.
Andrew L says, is also curious if you guys had time to read the IGN article that just came out about the culture at Bungie and how bad it is for narrative department. I did see the article, but I haven't read it. Did you check it out, Jez?
I haven't read it myself. I just seen people tweeting about it, but it just sucks. It just seems to be like almost endemic in the industry at that level for some reason. Man.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I definitely have to check out the article because I don't know what was said. So yeah. Josh says, thought, is Halo Infinite the best Xbox One game? The best Xbox One game.
What do you think, Rand?
I think the best Xbox One game is Red Dead Redemption 2. Like if we're taking a grouping of all the Xbox One games, not just first party, my favorite game from last gen is Red Dead Redemption 2. So I would say that. You can even make the case for Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I think if you're including first party. But then again, like I played Halo Infinite on the Series X, so I'm playing it at like the best resolution essentially that the console has to offer, plus high frame rate. Like I was kind of flipping between 60 frames and 120 frames to see the difference and stuff. And I mean, I don't think base Xbox One runs the game very well. So I can't really speak to that version of the game, but I mean, is it better than Halo 5, Josh? Do you think it's better than Halo 5? Like, would people in this chat who've played both Halo games, do you like Halo Infinite more than Halo 5? I do. I think Halo Infinite is way better in every way than Halo 5. We'll definitely be talking about Halo because, you know, game came out finally on, what was it, Tuesday or Wednesday, and we reviewed it on Monday. People don't really know your thoughts, Jez, because you didn't do the review for Windows Central.
I didn't.
I think Brendan did it, and he gave it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
And
Brendan gave it 5 out of 5.
people were saying, oh, Windows Central gave it 100. Technically, 5 out of 5 isn't really 100, right? That's just like how
No.
Metacritic takes their score. Can you explain that a little bit about what Windows Central scoring and what a 5 out of 5 really means?
Yeah, it's kind of annoying, like even for us, because 5 out of 5 I don't think is a great scale for a game, but 5 out of 5 was designed really for our laptops and stuff. So and we can't even do decimals. We can do like 4.5 is the most we can do when it comes to decimalization. So like I think like for us, for a game, 5 out of 5 is anywhere between 90 and 100. So you can sort of take our 5 out of 5 as more like it could be anywhere between 90 to 95 or 98 or whatever. But I am gonna because we move into a new system next year, we're gonna move to a new review scale as well, which will be more appropriate for games, I think. But yeah, like 5 out of 5 is never meant perfect. I think like even for sites like GameSpot who use like a 10 out of 10 with like a granular scale, I think even they say like 10 out of 10 doesn't denote perfect. It just means to like as close to perfect as you can get in our opinion, like kind of. But yeah, I think like I don't know. Are we going to talk about Halo Infinite now? How do you want to structure the show this week, Rand?
I don't. Well, we'll definitely. We'll talk about Halo Infinite first before the Game Awards because that's both what me and you played. And we'll actually talk about Halo Infinite after I finish reading these few super chats I have here. Because I want to hear what you say. Because you haven't said anything, and it'd be interesting to see what the Halo hater has to say about the campaign, right?
True.
So we have a super chat from Stefano says, "Love your show, guys. Do you think you could put some pressure on Microsoft to fix the audio delay when you choose Dolby Atmos audio in the Series X? Many people have a problem with this since launch." Yeah, I've heard about this. I've heard that there might be a delay. I've honestly never experienced it. Yeah, I don't know. Something about Atmos it being laggy or something like that. Yeah, have you heard anything about that, Jez?
I've not heard anything about it. I can look into it. It might be something they're already looking into. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to...
What else we got here?
I'll reach out to some peeps and see what's what.
BC says, "Awesome to catch you guys live from down under. Thanks for the entertainment. Bummer we didn't see Avowed. P.S. Jacklock on Legendary can kick rock." Yeah. I actually... Well, we'll talk about the Avowed stuff when we talk about the Game Awards. Supernova says, I don't know what is the strong hidden reason why Xbox Global Publishing or Phil Spencer should not acquire a deal with the Mistwalker studio in which Sakaguchi and Amatsu, who worked on several exclusives for the 360. Phil, they've talked about their desire to have a Japanese studio outside of the one they own with Tango Gameworks. Would Mistwalker be a good acquisition? Who knows? Maybe. I know people want to see like a Lost Odyssey 2 come back, or Lost Odyssey come back in general, and them to have to do with the sequel. So, and he goes on to say, I see Mistwalker Studios having a great chance that it covers the Xbox needs of an awesome Japanese style games, and the latest studio work is Fantasian, which is considered a masterpiece. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I know Microsoft is constantly talking to studios about working together. Maybe they decide to do a game first before they announce an acquisition. So, yeah. Sammy goes, anyone notice Pete Hines shot at Jez?
Oh.
Did Pete Hines take a shot at you, Jez?
That's depressing if he did.
I don't know. Does he even know who you are?
I have no idea.
What did Pete Hines say?
I have no idea.
Oh my God! Are you making?
Was it because I said a nasty tweet about free-to-play games? Maybe. Fallout isn't free to play, is it?
Fallout 76 is not free to play.
No. I don't know.
I don't know. You'd have to come and say like, what it was.
I feel like the whole game industry just hates me now, but that's fine.
That's not true.
That's fine.
We love you. We love you.
That's true. You guys are awesome. But yeah, I don't know what I've done to piss off Pete Hines, but oh well.
Yeah. So let's talk about Halo 2 or Halo Infinite. And if you guys are enjoying the show, do us a huge favor. Make sure you hit that like button and share this out. So because YouTube doesn't do their job sometimes. Nico says it wasn't a shot at Jez, and Calcifer says he took a shot at leakers in general. So
All right.
it was kind of funny because in his Game Awards thing, the commercial, he just said, our games that are unannounced or that are games that haven't leaked yet. So yeah, it definitely
Oh.
wasn't a shot at you. It was just like
Oh, okay.
whatever. Yeah,
I've not leaked anything from Bethesda yet.
yeah,
So.
but you would if you had the info. Would you sit on it or would you leak it?
It depends depends. I always say this. It depends on how likely I think it's going to leak. If I think it's going to leak because of their crappy security, then yeah, it might as well be me instead of like some competition. But if it's like someone's told me something in confidence and I'm sure that it's not going to leak, then no, I won't leak it.
Okay.
But the thing is, these companies don't take their security seriously sometimes, and then it just leaks out, and then everyone knows. So, you don't want leaks. Prove your security, fellas. It's not like I even look hard for this stuff sometimes. It really isn't.
So, Jez,
well.
I want to hear, and the fans want to hear, the listeners want to hear, of your thoughts about the Halo campaign, because they know that you love the multiplayer, even though you haven't really played it that much anymore because of crossplay shenanigans. You don't like playing against the PC people. You don't like playing against cheaters. You're also not the biggest fan of some of the progression and monetization, but whatever. So how do you feel?
I don't care about the progression and monetization so much.
Okay, so
I just ignore it in Halo because I don't really care about the whole lore about the characters and stuff. But sorry, what was your question, Rand?
I was going to say, how do you feel about the campaign? You played it, you completed it.
I completed it.
So what are your thoughts?
Okay,
on it?
First of all, there's not going to be any spoilers in the show, so we'll skirt around some of this stuff, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone because that sucks, and so there's that. But I felt it was just obvious that the game was the result of troubled development. I'll say, because I felt like there was a lot of messy execution in some of the story elements, and you can sort of tell later in the game where assets have been reused in the place of what I would have thought would have been a fully animated cutscene, I suppose. I also noticed very near the end of the game they reuse a whole scene from the start of the game a second time, which kind of like reduced the impact of the scene because I was like, hang on a sec, that's the exact same scene from the start of the game but with different models. So I was kind of like, there was that. But I think what they've done is they've painted themselves into a bit of a corner with Halo 5. The events of Halo 5 and Cortana and stuff like that, it reminded me a lot of what happened with World of Warcraft, honestly. Like, for people who've played Warcraft 3, like, Sylvanas is like this big popular character, very much like Cortana, but then in World of Warcraft, she turned evil in a very sort of poorly handled way, I'll say. So then Blizzard was like, oh yeah, we handled this really badly. We'll try and get ourselves out of this situation and give her a redemption arc. But the problem is they made Cortana and Sylvanas so evil that it's sort of like it's hard to sort of escape some of this stuff. So, without going into detail, they do sort of look at some of the events between Halo 5 and Halo Infinite, which none of us know about, because obviously there's a time skip between Halo 5, there's a time skip between Halo 5 and Halo Infinite, and also Halo Wars. So there's a huge block of time where we don't know what's going on, right? And they sort of try and work some of that into the plot of Halo Infinite, and I think they did it in quite a messy way, personally. But I think by the end of the game, I was totally in love with Escharum. I thought he was an amazing character, or is an amazing character rather, and I think what they do is they leave it in a sort of a good state to build on for future games or DLC. As we saw, they trademarked some DLC last week, so that's sort of my thinking on some of that stuff. By putting it in a way that's like the fewest spoilers possible, kind of.
So, how do you feel about the gameplay then? Like the open world? I know because you were concerned a little bit about the open world, that it'd be too much like Far Cry. And how did you end up feeling about it?
Yeah, I thought the gameplay was good. Like the shooting mechanics were good. Still felt like Halo, and you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Halo. I'm
Yes,
just
we
not.
know, Jez. We we know so much that you're not the biggest fan of Halo.
I prefer to splatter people's brains with a shotgun, but I think like in Doom or something. But I think like they did give guns a really great sense of impact without impacting the teen rating. Like they went really hard on physics, which were really really good, and they all played out really well, and just it just kind of worked. I was really worried that it was going to be Far Cry. And when I saw the first towers, right, like at the start of the game, I was like, oh god, they want me to grind towers just like Far Cry. And I just reviewed Far Cry 6, and I'm sick of that formula so badly. But thankfully, I don't feel like it overstays its welcome. And I feel like it's almost incidental. Because in the end, I just kind of felt like I was playing a sort of advanced version of some of those Halo Combat Evolved levels. Like the big, broad, open spaces, going between locations in a warthog, picking up NPCs to help fight with and stuff like that. And then like I was kind of impressed with how they resisted the urge to make it Halo Far Cry Edition, personally. So while I do wish there were more biomes in the game, and I do wish there was more variety in locations. Again, I thought it was like good, and it didn't overstay its welcome. So
if you were to score it, what would you have given it? If you were the one writing the review for Windows Central.
If I'd have scored it, I would have given it 4, I think, personally.
4. So I guess
Yeah,
so did the game exceed your expectations then? Like you went into it and you're like, okay, this is better than I thought it would be.
Honestly, yeah. Like especially at the start, I thought the intro was really strong. Like the intro was like spectacularly strong, and I was like, man, this is if the whole game's like this, then that's great. But then I thought it felt like it slowed down a bit, and I was waiting for another sequence like the start of the game with all the explosions and crazy stuff going off, and I was hoping for another sequence like that, but it just never came. I do think it will come in future DLC. I'm just curious, like how they're gonna handle the monetization.
You know what's interesting is that there's definitely, you think that the intro was great, right? That was very strong, and that you think maybe it kind of lost some steam once you entered the open world. A lot of people that I've listened to some reviews think the opposite, that the beginning, and Kotaku wrote an article yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, and people were just up in arms again. It was just like, the beginning of this is horrible, and the article is a horrible article. Like, I don't begrudge anybody's opinions about like the opening or whatever, but like the way it was written, I didn't like the way it was written. But I've talked to other people that was like, no, like I thought the beginning was lame, but then once you got into the open world, that's where it kicked off. So there does seem like kind of that. Some people think the open world, like the beginning, isn't very good, but it gets really good when it opens the open world. And like you, some people think like the beginning is strong. I really like the beginning. Like, well, essentially, I like the entire game. I thought the beginning was great, although maybe the first level isn't the best. Like when you board the brute ship, I don't think it's the best looking level. I don't think the color palette does the game very, very much justice, because it's mostly just kind of like ship interiors, brown, right? Like some dull lighting. The combat's not necessarily the best in that level. It's just like, this isn't really but I really liked when you get to the ring, you land into that first Forerunner installation, you get the weapon. Like, that was like, oh man, okay, this is really good. And then you head out on side, and it was just like a roller coaster ride until essentially you finished. So I'm happy that you liked the game, that you liked it better than you thought. But also, I mean, you were saying some things when pre-show about modern video
I was
games
just,
now with Dark
I was
Souls because
trolling.
you were just you sure you
Oh
were trolling? Okay.
no, well no, I wasn't trolling about that. But it's almost like that's not a criticism of modern video games really, because all the Halo games have been kind of like that. But just like after playing Dark Souls, it sort of reminded me that there are games out there that are for me, and it's not just the industry that's sort of it's not the industry that's changed. It's just that there's different games for different people, I guess. But the way I think about Dark Souls right now is that it's basically a single player linear, well, not really linear, but it's almost like a single player story Monster Hunter, because it just plays like Monster Hunter, and you know how much I love Monster Hunter, right?
Yeah. We all know how
So
much you love Monster Hunter.
yeah, so whereas Monster Hunter is like a multiplayer boss rush game, this is more like a Monster Hunter RPG, but also depressing environment. The game, so it's just for me, man. I like games to have a lot of depth, and I felt like a lot of modern games just don't have a lot of depth, like Far Cry and stuff.
They're more surface level.
Yeah, they're all sort of surface level, and you just do the same thing over and over again. And there's not any nuance in any of the mechanics, and everything sort of works the same way. But that's actually where Halo I felt delivered a bit more than typical, actually, because in Halo, like, because of all the way the physics works in Halo, you can do some pretty spectacular things and get all creative with the game's systems in a way that a lot of games like Far Cry, frankly, don't let you. So I do think I do think that a lot of modern games don't have the kind of depth that I wish they would have, um, in terms of like RPGs and stuff. I thought for a shooter, Halo actually did have quite a lot of depth in its combat without going full blown. Oh, we're a pseudo RPG now, like a lot of Ubisoft's games do. Like Ubisoft's mentality was to give Assassin's Creed depth will make it an RPG, but it just doesn't sort of. They didn't need to do that to make Assassin's Creed feel like it had depth. They could have just made the combat a little bit more granular, or, and stuff like that. I don't know. I need to think a bit more about my response to that, really. But
All right.
honestly, I wasn't actually impressed with the depth in Halo. Like, you could do some really creative things. Like, I remember there was this one part where I was mopping up some of the side missions, and one of the side missions, and this isn't a spoiler, this isn't a story thing or whatever. There's two. You have to fight like two elite bosses, in a pretty open space, and I was kind of like, man, how am I going to do this? And I just approached the fight head on a couple of times, but these two enemies, they were super tanky, and they did a load of damage, and there wasn't much cover around. I was just thinking, like, what the hell can I do here? So what I did was I went back to the forward operating base. I spawned, or well, I didn't spawn. Actually, yeah, I did spawn, because that's how it works. I spawned like a bunch of rocket launchers in those lockers or whatever, and then I swapped out all the NPCs' weapons to rocket launchers, and then I picked them up in a Razorback, and I just let the NPCs go mental with the rocket launchers while I was like stabbing them in the back and stuff. So like it does give you tools to play with, but I felt those moments were so few. I just wanted a bigger sandbox, maybe, ironically, with more stuff to do, and I don't know. I just wanted more, I think, which is weird because it's not like a shallow game, but I think because of the dev cycle and how long it's taken, I was kind of expecting more, a little bit maybe, but that's a me problem, really. But it does seem like the development cycle on that game was tough.
Well, did you read the Jason Schreier article about the development of the game that he put out on Wednesday?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, it's not really a surprise. Those are all the things that we've been talking about for a while, like the contractor situation at Xbox. Well, I guess we should explain that. So, like, Jason Schreier said that labor was an issue, and that Microsoft in general has this thing with contractors where they can only work 18 months on on something, and then they have to take a break, right?
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a 343 issue. That's like a Microsoft in general issue. So you have somebody who's working on the game for 18 months and then they got to stop working on the game. And that obviously causes some issues. They said the tools were a problem. Now, I don't know if it means like slip space engine or if it was like previous tools they were working with were an issue. They scrapped like 2/3 of the game. And I guess maybe like the idea here is that like game development is hard, and games can either end up like Anthem or they can end up like God of War, because God of War also famously was going through dev hell, and everybody, even like right before the game came out, like nobody thought that game was going to be any good, and then miraculously it all came together at the end, right? But that's where like Anthem failed, where the people at BioWare believed in the BioWare magic, that the game will just magically come together at the very end of development, because it had for previous games, like it did for Dragon Age Inquisition and stuff like that. But it didn't come together for Anthem, and Anthem was just, roundly destroyed by critics and fans, and it wasn't even given a second chance at life. So Here you have Halo Infinite, a game that everybody kind of was expecting not to be good. Let's be honest. We talked on this podcast and we're like, I'm confident in the multiplayer because 343 has shown me that they know how to do multiplayer. And we were right. The multiplayer is considered probably the best since Halo 3. Definitely better than 5 and 4. People love the multiplayer, even though they have issues with the monetization of free-to-play games, right? And maybe the progression. But the gameplay and how everything is within the multiplayer, people are in love with. The question always was the campaign. And, when you take like, okay, well, Halo 5's campaign wasn't good. And then it's like, oh, look at the problems they're having at the studio. They showed off that demo in 2020 at E3. Everybody was like, look how horrible it looks like. Even though we said, like, man, it looks like a lot of fun to play. And it ended up being a lot of fun to play. I think, personally, it's the best playing Halo ever. I think it plays better than any of the Bungie Halo games. And I think it's a lot more fun to play because of it. My first playthrough of Halo Infinite, I think, was a lot more fun than any of the other Halo games. And normally I play my first playthrough of Halo solo, and then I play in co-op. So I just had a huge smile on my face while I was playing through this game. But yeah, there was a lot of people that wanted to be able to pounce on this game, Jez. That wanted to be able to talk smack about it, about how 343 is a crappy studio. Xbox still can't get their studios to work great. Phil doesn't know what he's doing. All these different things that people were just ready to critique Xbox. Ready to just throw 343 and everybody under the bus, because how could the studio who has all these many people working for it end up and put out this like god-awful game? And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Yeah. In fact, it won the Player Choice Award, right? At the Game Award. Like, it just, and that really bothered people. Like, how could it win? And it's like, the game's not even out yet, but it's like the multiplayer was out. Well, how could the multiplayer win? It's like, well, Overwatch won Game of the Year in 2016. So you don't necessarily have to just, like, of course, the multiplayer could be someone's favorite game of the year. And then you factor in multiplayer and campaign, and you can understand why it is someone's favorite game of the year. Yeah. But it almost seems like there's a group of people out there just that were promised a shit show that they could really console war about, right?
Okay.
Right? because it almost seemed like it. It seemed like it had been set up. Like the game was delayed, the Craig meme was born. Everybody was talking shit about Halo for a year, Jez. For a year. And then they showed off the multiplayer at E3 this past year. Remember? Because we talked about it. Like, all of a sudden, it seemed like the conversation around Halo had turned around, and people were like, whoa, that looks good. Then the Flight came out, and people loved it. And then, people were still like, well, the campaign's going to be shit. And then it wasn't. It was better than anybody thought it would be. And the people that were just preparing to have their way, just now they don't have a game they can just make fun of, which I think is absolutely amazing. But personally, for me, like I said, it's the most fun Halo game I've ever played. I had a blast playing it. I played it on Heroic. I played it on Easy. I wanted to see what the difference was between both. I beat it on Heroic and I beat it on Easy. It's still it's still a pretty long game even on Easy. Like, I think just doing the main missions on Easy, I think it took me like a little bit under 8 hours. And that wasn't like skipping fights within the main campaign. I was still beating everybody where you could use the grapple hook to get around, but and I didn't do any side missions. So I was like, man, like 7.5 hours is still pretty decent, especially if you're playing on the easiest difficulty. If you're playing on like harder ones, it's going to be much more, right? So I don't know, like I think 343 deserves all the credit. I know the game obviously went through dev hell. You've talked about it publicly on Twitter that people that left the entire video game industry because of how bad the development was in Halo Infinite, right?
Yeah, I know more than a couple of people who were like, they were just like, I'm done with this. But I think the contractor situation contributed to that, which
Hello? Oh, I think we might have lost Jez.
It's true. If Microsoft, can you not hear me?
No, you kind of like stopped, and now
really?
Now you're back. So yeah, the last thing I heard you say was you think the contractor situation might have.
I think the contract, yeah. I think the contractor situation might have contributed to the frustration some people had felt, and hopefully that's something Phil can undo, because that just seems like a weird limitation to have, and because a lot of game development work is contract work, and if Microsoft isn't flexible with how that all functions, then it could be something to do with Seattle law as well. Maybe they're like, well, if you're a contractor more than 18 months, then you have to offer them a full-time job. I'm just speculating. But there could be like a legal aspect to why they do it that way. But then you could easily make the argument, well, if they've been there for more than 18 months, maybe you should just give them a full-time contract. I don't know. But some devs don't want a full-time contract. They want the freedom to jump around, supposedly. But I can't imagine that's true for a lot of people. I know I prefer stability over contract work, but I don't know. It's interesting to discuss, and thinking about, I think what the real important topic here is that they've got the engine done.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the canvas out there.
Yes.
But what we've basically got now is a very solid multiplayer experience that they can build on, and a very solid open world campaign experience they can build on.
Mm-hmm.
They can add more to this, hopefully more easily than they've been able to actually build the first iteration of it. So hopefully from here on out, and I don't know if I won't say the name, because the name is potentially a spoiler. I think some people said.
I don't really think it's a spoiler.
Think?
Well, okay.
No?
I still have a couple things I want to say about the game, right? Because I want to get my thoughts out there. I don't know. Everybody didn't listen to my review. I compared Halo Infinite to Sea of Thieves in my review, Jez.
Yeah, I was thinking that the whole time. I didn't watch your review either, by the way.
Well,
but but when I was describing the sandbox, I was thinking of Sea of Thieves the whole time.
Yeah, because previous Halo games, much like a lot of games during the 360 generation, OG Xbox generation, very much linear focused, especially shooters, where Halo Infinite is very much like here are the tools to use, and you can do anything. You can play the game however you want. Like you could go, like it's so interesting how. Well, let me rewind this. The Sea of Thieves thing basically is Sea of Thieves. You can play in any way that you want, right? And nobody's really gonna have the same experience. And then you have a story to tell other people about, like, man, we were chased, or we did this, or whatever. It's like, here's the sandbox and the tools. Go have fun and have your own adventure. Previous Halo games were very much a linear experience where everybody's like, yo, do you remember the fucking bridge in Halo 2 Mombasa on the tank? And everyone's like, yeah, dude, I remember that. And you all had these reference points that people could talk to. Man, do you remember this point in Halo 3 when this happened? And you're like, yeah, bro, I totally remember. I did it like this, and I did it like this. But you had reference points. Yeah, like in that voice. You had reference points for.
Yeah, bro.
It's like a ride. Like Bungie had built a ride. And everybody went through the ride and experienced it the same way. So afterwards, you'd be like, bro, that fucking 360 loop-de-loop was killer, right? And you'd be like, yeah, dude, I totally love that. But Halo Infinite is a little bit different because you could essentially have a base and you could attack it any way you want. You could just like, I'm going to grab a sniper from the fob. I'm going to go up really high up, and I'm going to take out the brutes by sniping. Then I'll go in. Someone else be like, well, screw that. I'm going to spawn a wasp. Grab the wasp, do an aerial assault. Someone may just go in foot and be like, I'm taking these people, headlong on, right? You go to the fob. You could spawn a warthog and then get a whole bunch of Marines to come in with you to actually start the fight. Hell, maybe you find a ghost somewhere. Drive that in there. Maybe you find a tank. You bring the tank in there. There's so many different ways to do any one specific thing that a lot of people are going to have different experiences, which is why I brought up the Sea of Thieves comparison. Because not everybody's going to experience the open world aspect the same way, which I think is super cool because there are definitely like things that I did that I'm sure other people didn't do. So I think that's really cool, although I do think that some people won't like that. Some people want the traditional Halo campaign, which I think is presented in like those linear Forerunner levels for the most part.
This is what I was thinking. I want a mixture of that. That's why I enjoyed the intro level, but I wanted another moment, another sequence like that. And that's why, I thought the sort of open overworld, and then have almost like dungeons that give you those sort of epic, more scripted experiences. But that's kind of like wanting your cake and eating it, right? Which brings us to the DLC ultimately, because they've got all that stuff in place now. They can ultimately just do whatever they want with it at this point.
Yeah, so I guess the other thing I'll mention was, I guess maybe some of my critiques. Like, I really, really like this game a lot. It's 343's best Halo game by far. I do think they do the rule of 3 too much. I don't know how many... The rule of 3, when you got to do something 3 times before you can move on, essentially. Like, how many times were you grabbing those power shards to power doors? And then, you do that, and then you go to the next thing, and there'd be another power shard you'd have to grab and do it. And or even here in this little clip I'm showing of attacking this keep, you got to destroy 3 like towers that show up, right? It's always the rule of 3. And I think they rely on it a little bit too much. But then the other thing, and this is more of a me thing because it happens so often, was the amount of times you have to insert the weapon into a console to move on. Like, it happens a lot. And I guess it's understandable because she's a new character and you gotta get used to her, and that's how she is able to show her personality to the audience while seeing her expressions. It just was like every single time you get into a fight and you clear a room out and you go into the next room and there's another console you have to put the weapon into. It's just like, how many times are we gonna do this, right? And like I said, no spoilers, but I mentioned in my review, the game gave me goosebumps a couple times. I couldn't stop playing, which is always a great sign for a game. Like, when you can't put it down and you just want to keep on playing, that's a great sign of something you're enjoying. And there were moments there where I got goosebumps, but I'm not going to say which ones because I don't want to ruin anything. I did get emotional. I ain't going to lie. You know, I mentioned before when I talked about Wheel of Time, and I think people were like, oh man, I can hear in Rand's voice he's getting emotional about talking about it. And I was. Like, I almost had tears in my eyes. You know, I'm not afraid to admit it. There was a scene here where I started to get choked up a little bit because this franchise does mean a lot to me and the characters do mean a lot to me. So there was a moment where like I was like just thinking about it is just like, oh man, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say who it involves or anything. Just it's that type of stuff never happens to me in games. Like it happens to me in movies here and there. And it happens to me in books a lot because there's a lot of, you know, especially for something that I've read for 20 years, but games rarely. It rarely happens in games. But even so, with that said, about how I felt about the game and how it spoke to me, I did feel robbed. There is a part where I felt robbed as a fan of the franchise, and I didn't like the storytelling of it. I didn't like what happened. I'm not going to say anything more than that other than it's like, and I've talked about it with you. I've talked about it with other people. I didn't like it. I'll just leave it at that. But
yeah, I felt the same. I felt the same actually. Like there were a couple of parts that even I had goosebumps, even though I'm not a huge fan of the franchise. But then I also, even though I'm not a huge fan of the franchise, there was a part that I also felt robbed, and I was just sitting there thinking like, man, I could have written this better. I could have come up with a better resolution than this. But then you just sort of have to hope that it's because it's going somewhere or something. I don't know. But it made me feel annoyed in a way that I haven't felt annoyed since maybe Mass Effect 3's ending. It's not as bad as that, but it's sort of like it's annoyance because you care, you know. So it means something that they actually made me care. So that's cool because I often just don't care about Halo games. But but I do kind of think like it was a struggle to have even got to where they did, and you know, hopefully from here they can like build on and take it somewhere more impressive and more.
well, yeah, and that's kind of what I want to talk about next. Is, you know, there is an ending to the game. I don't think it's abrupt. I liked it. I mean, I didn't love it. I think there's going to be people that don't like it, and I already talked to people who don't. But I think the game told a complete beginning, middle, and end of a story. But of course, there's a sequel tease, and they Xbox trademarked something called Halo. Well, I guess maybe I won't say what they trademarked, but they trademarked something that when I first saw it, I'm like, that's the sequel, or that's going to be the next campaign. Do you agree? Do you have the same feeling, Jez?
Yeah, I guess.
You guess? So I guess the question then becomes is, when are we going to see this sequel DLC campaign? Are they going to do it like Bungie does, where are we going to get yearly expansions? Are we going to, you know what I mean? Like, they already have a trademark, so like, is it going to be coming sooner rather than later? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I suppose it could go either way. First of all, I don't think it's going to be a sequel. I don't think there's going to be a whole new $60 game.
No. I mean,
I think
an
the clues in
expansion.
the title.
What?
Yeah, the clues in the title. Infinite. Halo Infinite is like, it's not truly infinite. It's not going to go on forever. But as long as the engine can remain sort of relatively modern, they're just going to keep adding to this. And as long as people keep playing it and stuff. So I see this sort of taking almost a Sea of Thieves like structure where they add DLC and story events and all kinds of stuff to the game, especially when they get cooperative playing, because that's the other big thing that was missing was the co-op experience. So like for literally decades, people have played Halo with their friends in co-op, and for this game was the first Halo that didn't launch with co-op, which is kind of lame, especially with the holidays coming up. You go home for the holidays, and you know, maybe you want to, you know, get all nostalgic with a sibling and play Halo. You can't do that this year because they couldn't get the co-op in there for whatever reason. So that aspect sucked too. But when they do start getting the co-op in, I presume it'll be 4-player. Maybe you join someone's game and then you play as like a random Spartan, or you play as like, it'd be cool if you could play like as a grunt or something, like a Marine rather than a full-blown Spartan. Or hell, let me even play as a grunt, like a grunt who's like gone rogue and join the humans or something. But or maybe even like they could do a DLC with the Arbiter comes back. There's loads of stuff they could do with this as a sort of not full-blown MMO, sort of like how Destiny is with loot and stuff, but as a sort of a canvas kind of sandbox multiplayer game similar to Sea of Thieves, like where you can just drop in, drop out, do some mad stuff, maybe unlock some cosmetics for multiplayer and that kind of thing, and also experience some new story beats. I think they're probably looking to how Sea of Thieves worked to inform that, and I think that's how it's going to end up going.
Yeah, there was a lot of times when I was playing this game that I thought to myself, this would be so much fun in co-op.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sucks that it's not there. It'll be coming later in the year, but yeah, I'm really interested in seeing how they approach sequels or DLCs for this. Because you kind of already had the mold out there with Destiny. Destiny's always releasing new campaigns or new story stuff, kind of like every year or maybe like every year and a half. And it kind of does fit in the seasonal model. Like, I think a big, season 6. Season 6 features the return of Chief in, Halo, whatever it's called. And it's a, 5 to 8 hour campaign, much like Gears Highbusters was, right? But instead of just,
was amazing.
It was, but instead of just doing it once and stopping, this will be something that you can continue to do for a long time. Like you can constantly tell stories within this universe, and there definitely is another story they have to tell in this game, judging from certain things we won't talk about. But yeah, the fact that it's already trademarked, like, I kind of feel like it's coming sooner rather than later. Like I almost feel like a year from now to celebrate the 1 year anniversary. Maybe you're right, but I kind of feel like the 1 year anniversary, it's like celebrate season 5 with a new Master Chief story and campaign that you can, play in co-op and all that stuff. So it'd be interesting how this game evolves, when new stuff is going to happen. But 343, man, they exceeded all my expectations with this game, 100%. It's better than I thought it would be. And I mean, for all the problems that supposedly development has, is like, I mean, you could see some of it, like even in like some of the explorable areas that you really can't go check out. It's like, okay, that's probably cut content or whatever. But yeah, like what a turnaround. Because I thought it was just going to be one of those things where it's like, man, like Halo's just going to come out. Because you said you were surprised by the high reviews that it got, because you thought it would score more high 70s, low 80s. And I think it's like currently sitting at an 86, like right around an 87, which is a pretty damn good score. But Halo's back, baby. I love it. I love to see it. You love to see it. So
yeah, it's awesome.
I'm
happy for the fans, like.
Yeah, of course. Because it's always good when a game comes out and it's great. Because what's the Miyamoto quote? A bad game is bad forever. A delayed game is eventually good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's very true in this case. Because I can only imagine what this game would have been like if it had launched last year, or even when Jason Schreier said that they had planned at one point to have the multiplayer come out in 2019 and the campaign to then launch in 2020. So it's like, yeah, you made the right decision to launch everything together essentially and give it as much time as possible. And hopefully you do that with all of your franchises, all of your studios. Give them as much time as they need to make the game as good as possible, because this is what we wanted from Xbox. Like we're gonna talk about their incredible 2021 in a minute, but like this is what I've been talking about personally for years now. So I'm gonna get a couple of these super chats and we'll talk about it. Love of the Game says the many bases, camps, crash, and battle sites spread throughout the open world remind me of a more advanced version of what Gears started in their campaign.
Hmm. Yeah, I kind of get that. I kind of get what he means there, because like in the ice fields bit in Gears, there's like you don't have to do it because they're sort of like side quests and they give you like bits of story details and there's like some unique weapon variants. I think that is actually just like some of the stuff in Halo Infinite, really.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I clearly I think even in the Jason Schreier article, which Jeff Grubb said, like it almost seems like they were like, okay, we want to kind of do a Halo meets Breath of the Wild type thing.
Mm.
Gears' open world was very just basic. Like it was almost they felt almost scared to make it open world, or at least do open world properly.
Nah, dude, I've heard that they were limited a little bit by the Unreal Engine there, which is why they have the huge gate. There's like these huge gates.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just giant loading screens, really.
You're talking about like when you get off the sled and you squeeze through a little thing and then you
Yeah,
actually like because the open world in Gears was pretty static. There wasn't much to do. You'd have a couple areas you could do you could go do something, but they were areas within the open world. Not like
yeah.
Halo Infinite. So if that's a problem with Unreal, then maybe it's not a problem
I
with
don't know if it's Unreal specifically or it's just the way they use Unreal or something. And I think Unreal 5 improves some of this stuff. But I remember being told by a dev that Unreal Engine 4 has some streaming problems when it comes to making open world games, which is why like, some devs don't use it. And which is why like the semi open world in Gears is not really a true open world in that sense. I don't know.
Yeah, the Geeky Nerd says overall an 86 Metacritic is a great score, but put it into context with the rest of the franchise's major releases not including Halo Wars, is toward the bottom. I think it's fair to point both out. You're right, but I also think it's fair to point out that review standards have changed since the 360 generation. Almost, they were handing out 90s like candy during the 360 gen, and when you got into the Xbox One gen, that stopped. So I think reviewers are a lot harder on games now than they were then. But I mean, it is true. Like the Halo 1, 2, and 3 all scored like super high 90s. And
Yeah, I remember. Do you remember? Yeah.
what? Do I remember what?
Do you remember, like in the 360 gen, there was this huge controversy because an EA executive had messaged GameSpot's executive editor and requested that someone be fired for giving one of their games a negative review. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was wasn't it that little Jeff Gertzman thing? That's how Giant Bomb came out of existence.
Yeah,
I think it was over Kane and Lynch.
yeah. So I think there was a bit of like I don't think game journalists are as scared of publishers as they used to be, because a lot of revenue doesn't come from game publishers now. It comes from Amazon, frankly. So like I don't give a damn. I'm lucky I've come into this industry when I have, because like if I get blacklisted by Ubisoft, that doesn't affect us at all. So I can say whatever I want. I don't have to worry about upsetting them and sugarcoating for them. I can be liberated in my opinion, because I don't need the access, because that's not the business model anymore. But it definitely used to be in the old days before Amazon and before affiliate marketing and all that stuff. So maybe people were more inclined to give out higher scores then because of that, because of being scared of being cut
Well, I
off.
also
But I don't
think
know.
maybe a lot of those ideas or games were new, and then you're constantly just seeing iterations of them, and
Right.
it's not as fresh. So like the reviews score lower and lower and lower. Like it's pretty tough to get like score in the 90s these days. I think the only one that really
Yeah.
did it this year is Forza. And even still, like Forza Horizon 5 is way better than Forza Horizon 4, but even still, it only matched it with a 92. It's just incredibly difficult to score high because people like, I don't know. It just is Halo like 2 and 3 like really a 97? Like, I think if those games had come out now, they definitely would be reviewed a lot lower.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way it is. I mean, even like Halo 4 is like an 87 on Metacritic. Halo 4 is nowhere near as good as this game. And the fact that it's like rated higher is just goes to show you just, how people reviewed games then versus now. It's different. George
Did Halo
says
4 have a flood? No, it
no.
didn't.
Halo 4 did not.
Yeah,
Have,
yeah, I remember.
They had Prometheans, which were even worse. Horrible
Yeah,
enemy
what
to
the hell
fight.
was
And the multiplayer in Halo 4 was absolutely terrible, and yet that game still scored pretty high. And Halo 5 scored high, and it didn't deserve its Metacritic of 85 because the campaign is awful in Halo 5. But either way, George says ideas on the campaign expansion. Love the campaign. Yeah, that's too much to talk about spoilers, and I don't want to talk about spoilers. I don't want to ruin the game for everybody, but there's definitely a setup that they have, a tease, a hook for the next sequel. I would imagine it'd be a combination of open world exploration with dungeons, linear levels that you can explore. But I guess we'll find out eventually. Paul says, I don't even want to know what the game would have been if Joseph Staten never stepped in. That's true. It did seem like he in the Jason Schreier article, he was credited with like, I went to, the boss and the bosses and basically detailed like, this is how much better the game would be if you give us, the extra year. And I think it really paid off. Also, like, it's to point out that like, Jez, that, you could even say Xbox didn't need Halo until this year, because of the chip shortage, right? Like they were selling as many consoles as they can make even right now, and maybe that wouldn't have been the case with the original plan, which is why you want Halo Infinite launching with your console. But when it didn't, and then all of a sudden there weren't going to be many consoles available, it's like you didn't really need Halo. So yeah, I guess it all worked out for the better. Safe Space Invader says, will Halo expansions be for all systems? 10 years, ? I think they'll do it like Destiny, where Destiny got expansions for a bit, and then they basically dropped support for like Xbox 360, and then everything was just only Xbox One. And I just really can't see 9 years from now. So what would be 9 years from now? I just can't see in 2030 or 2029, if they're dropping a new campaign or new updates for multiplayer or something, that they're still also putting them out for Xbox One. Because you would imagine by then, there aren't going to be many people playing on Xbox One, and you can probably safely disconnect the umbilical cord. Do you feel the same on that, Jez, or no?
Yeah, I mean, it seems fair.
Seems fair. RDX Son of Fest says, Jez, when is the mini fridge coming to Canada? I beat Infinite and it's amazing, and also can't wait to play the new Tunic demo. So, do you know, Jez?
I have no idea on the mini fridge in Canada. Is the mini fridge even available in the UK? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I haven't followed the mini fridge too closely. I don't plan on buying one myself. I got nowhere to put one, and I don't really care if I mean, it's cold. It's cold already anyway. If I want something to be cold, if a beverage to be cold, I just put it by the window for 5 minutes or something. But yeah, I'm afraid I don't know. I'm pretty sure they've heard the complaints loud and clear though. So
yeah,
they're probably gauging how well it'll do in the US market, and then maybe expand it to other markets. Maybe via the Xbox Gear Store or something, because they have just expanded the Xbox Gear Store to like the Xbox Gear Store right now. It exists in America, but it has worldwide shipping, I think. But then this past month, like a couple of weeks ago, they've actually expanded the Gear Store to the UK, where now like when you buy stuff from the UK, it's actually shipped from a UK warehouse, not from an American one. So I think they're probably just slowly gauging how like their retail pipeline for merchandise. So it it could take a while, but hopefully it won't take too long if you're a mini fridge fan and you want one.
Yeah. Kesante says, I'm early in and I've gotten choked up a few times. I love the game so far. I'm taking it slowly, not to run through it all quickly. Yeah, Kesante. I mean, I took it slow too. But yeah, I feel I felt the same, man. Get choked up, you know. I love Halo. I love the characters, and there's definitely a moment, maybe two moments where it really hit me hard. Whittia says, "Is it what dealer complained about?" I don't know what dealer complained about. So I can't speak for him, but my complaint isn't with the ending. My complaint's with some of the storytelling towards the end, that it doesn't have to do with the ending. Maybe one day we can spoil this in a month or so, or next year. We talk about the problems I had with the game. I think also I'm going to be on some spoiler casts for other podcasts, so I'll definitely be talking about it there. So, you know what's funny? Somebody on Xbox Live actually sent me a message trying to spoil the game for me, Jez, even though I had already beat it. And most of the person's spoilers were completely wrong. Right? That's weird. I was just like, wow, you're pathetic. And also, I already beat the game, and all your spoilers are essentially wrong. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Why do people get so upset and emotional about video games like this?
I don't know.
On consoles, they don't even care about, like, man, it's so strange to me that grown men would do this.
Well, dude, I saw really your tweet about people review bombing Halo on Metacritic.
That's hilarious.
And they're just, think about this. There are dudes out there who lives are pathetic and who legit are like making up reviews to you know, review bomb the game. And it's not just like only essentially a video game thing, because they did it for movies as well, right? Like Black Panther, Wonder Woman, and stuff like that. But they're like so pathetic that they go make up fake stuff and they review bomb something. Like, I've said this before, I couldn't be bothered to do that. Like, you would literally have to pay me. Someone would have to come and be like, Rand, could you write a review on Metacritic? I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. I'd be like, you'd have to pay me to do that. Like, you'd have to literally PayPal me $100 and be like, could you go write a review for this on Metacritic? Because it's not worth my time. But yet, for whatever reason, there's people out there that are legitimately upset that Halo is good, that are legitimately upset other things are good, and they take it out on Twitter and social media, and then they review bomb it. Like, honestly, I've always felt that those people are just utterly pathetic. They're just losers of the biggest magnitude. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that myself. It's just, do you feel the same, Jez? Like, do you ever feel like I need to comment on this? No. Or like,
I just, honestly, I just wouldn't have the time. Like, I just wouldn't have the time, let alone the inclination. I just think it's really strange. I think review bombings can serve a purpose. If a dev's ignoring the community and or doing something shady, like putting pay to win in the game or something. Sometimes review bombing can be like an outlet for when consumer malpractice has occurred, but that isn't the case here. This is like just fanboyism gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Like, some Xbox fans will downvote a PlayStation game, and some PlayStation fans will downvote an Xbox game and stuff. But I think it's just pathetic overall. You know,
yeah. No matter what, you know, platform wars are just sad. I don't care if you're an Xbox fanboy or a PlayStation fanboy, whatever. Just the world's too lame to put extra negativity into it for no reason.
Yeah. Gunstar says, I'm failing my mod duties, I'm afraid. Teddy keeps trying to eat everything just like his dad. I'll catch up tomorrow. #PupDaddy. And Gunstar got a new dog. So we all love dogs.
Puppies are like hard work, from what I understand. A friend of mine's got a puppy recently, and the puppy, like, they thought the puppy had swallowed a battery, so they spent the whole day at the veterinary's place. Yeah. And then, like, I look at my cats and they're like, "Yeah, we're not dumb enough to eat a battery. Don't worry about us."
Hargit says, "Will potential future Halo campaign DLC be free?" I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say that'll be something you have to pay for.
Yeah, I think it'll be like, I think they might have experimented with Hive Busters maybe, and they were seeing like if Hive Busters drove. I mean, this is speculation. It's probably not really what happened, but I think if Hive Busters drove a load of Game Pass subs or something, they might have maybe thought another way of doing it. But like Minecraft Dungeons DLC, for example, none of that is free. You have to buy it. I think like if you got Game Pass, you get Minecraft Dungeons base game, but all the DLC packs, the extra missions that come with the extra loot and stuff, those you have to pay for. But like the system level updates, like system features, though, you get those for free, and like some of the end game content they've included for free.
Yeah,
But
you won't have to pay for being able to replay campaign missions.
yeah,
You know,
or
the fact that they couldn't get that in for launch is just can't replay campaign missions. It's like, oh, that's such a basic thing too. You know, being
yeah,
able to
that
do
is
that.
strange.
Yeah. Our buddy Sin Vendetta says, now that Microsoft has 23 studios working on games, these veteran Xbox studios can now breathe and take more time to get these games right. I imagine how much pressure they had when it was just 5 studios last gen. Yep. And I'm going to, basically expand on that because that is super important what you just said. And I think we got Nodon 99,999 says Infinite is following the Destiny model. If you look at Destiny, you'll see where Halo is going. If you like Infinite, you'll probably like Destiny. I don't know. I like Infinite, but I don't care for Destiny. So, I mean, I don't like Destiny at all. So, I disagree with that. Installation 7 says just got here.
Sandbox, is it?
What?
I don't really consider Destiny to be a sandbox. Like you can't interact with the environment the same way you can in Halo. Like in Halo, you can like drive a tank and then smash into an enemy and throw a barrel and then everything goes ragdoll flying all over the place. Yeah, Destiny has driving in it, but it's not really like it doesn't interact with the environment so much, and the environments are kind of like static, right? I don't
Yeah.
really consider Destiny to be a sandbox like Halo is, or like Sea of Thieves is even.
Well, we'll see. Like, if they start introducing daily and weekly challenges to the PvE section of the campaign, then maybe be like, oh, there's kind of like Destiny, but we'll see. Yeah. Installation 7 says, just got here. What do you think of Del Toro's Silent Hill comment? Teaser or troll? Yeah, Del Toro says something about a new Silent Hill, saying that he hoped that one would come. I think that's a tease. I do think there's a new Silent Hill in the works, and I think it's only a matter of time before we find out what it is and who's making it.
It's Bloober, right? That's the rumor.
There's a rumor that there's 2 Silent Hill games, and maybe one of them is being made by Bloober, and there's another one made by a Japanese studio. So,
what if that old rumor about Microsoft being involved and it's Shinji Mikami doing it or something? That'd be hilarious.
Gordon Redzik says, Rand and Jez, great work as always. So I felt there were so many games that looked the same. Please, no more walking around in a dystopian landscape. Also, Jez, can you tell your Xbox overlords to make a volleyball game?
A volleyball game?
A volleyball game. Do you feel there's also too many post-apocalyptic dystopian games out there?
Yes and no. Yes, because I understand if you're not a fan of that, then that could be tedious because there is a lot of them right now. But I'm a fan of that, so no, I like that. Bring more of that. But I get it. Like, but I'm the opposite. I'm playing for review right now. I'm playing a really positive, happy game that's sort of bright and colorful, and I hate it.
What game is it?
But I know it's.
Can't say, right?
I can't tell you. But I know it's a me problem. And I can see objectively that the art's amazing and it's gorgeous and all that stuff. And I know that people who aren't so cynical and jaded would really like it. But I'm not one of those people. I'm someone who gets excited by the drab darkness of Dark Souls and State of Decay. Where's State of Decay 3, man? I want
Mm.
me some State of Decay. But I agree. There is a lot of that. Hopefully, like there'll be more variety and stuff going forward. I don't know, but I thought there was quite a lot of like bright and colorful games. Like the Suicide Squad game looked pretty.
Yeah, I got a lot of Sunset
It
Overdrive,
wasn't. Yeah,
vibes from that.
yeah,
Yeah. I think a lot of people like post-apocalyptic because they can essentially make their own world. You know, you're not really. I think also people have a lot of fascination with dystopian post-apocalyptic stuff.
yeah, for sure.
Jacqueline says, "Hey Jen, so Sony just got a new studio and people are waiting to see who's next. Gentlemen, who do you think will be bought by this time next year?" Yeah, Sony just bought a support studio. That's the thing. Like nobody had that studio on their lists. And that's like I said, that's a tough question. Because it very well could be Xbox could buy somebody that nobody's really thinking about. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about the acquisition stuff all the time. We know that Xbox is talking to people. We know Satya and Phil and Matt Booty have all mentioned it, that they're going to continue to grow, especially if it's a win-win for both whoever they're buying and themselves. So, like, honestly, I think Microsoft, I mentioned this before, but like Crystal Dynamics, I think Crystal Dynamics is as close to a shoo-in as you can get. Especially if the Perfect Dark development goes good, I think they snatch up Crystal Dynamics. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe they also buy the Tomb Raider IP from Square then and just be like, all right, now Crystal Dynamics can do Perfect Dark and Tomb Raider. Outside of that, I mean, who knows? But, yeah,
IO, baby.
IO Interactive.
IO and Hitman.
I wanted to talk because, like, our buddy... Sin Vendettas kind of said this in a super chat about like studios being able to take their time now, and there's a lot of pressure, especially on like Playground and the Coalition last gen because they didn't have a lot of first party, and maybe they pushed games out when they shouldn't have, and because of that, games weren't as fully featured as they should be, and that kind of goes in with like what I called like Xbox's incredible 2021, but it also bears well to the future because. We all thought like, okay, 2021 is going to be a decent year. Sure, the first half of the year was not very good. Microsoft assisted off of their Game Pass announcements like MLB The Show and Outriders, and I still think they need to do more of those big third-party games in day one, like for Game Pass stuff. They need to do more of that. So my thing is... Two of the games that came out this year for Xbox, Psychonauts 2 and Halo, were delayed essentially a year to give them more time to make the games better. And I think if this was previous Xbox, they would have pushed those games out because they needed them. And I think both games would have suffered. And the problem both me and you, Jez, have had is that Xbox released games too early or not with enough content, so they got these monikers of like Sea of Thieves, like early access, right? Or they have something like Crackdown, which is like 60 meta. Like there was the meme that Xbox just releases these 60 meta games, and I think largely is because they didn't really give a lot of studios time. And I think if in a different world, Halo Infinite comes out last year and Psychonauts 2 comes out last year, right? And they're nowhere near as good as they are right now. And because of that, Psychonauts doesn't get nominated for awards. It doesn't score well. Same thing with Halo. People are turned off the franchise. And I think it's good that this is happening. And partially it's because of all the studios. And also partially I think it's because Xbox is more mature about it. And that they can look at this blueprint of, here's two games that we delayed that got significantly better because of the delay. So we can then give these other studios that we have extra time if they need it. Because we all want Xbox Game Studios to pump out quality games. And the only way you're going to do that is if you give the teams the time they need. So 2021 ended up being an incredible year for Xbox because of Microsoft's smart decisions of delaying Psychonauts 2 and Halo. And then when you combine it with here's Forza Horizon 5, which is incredible, and here's Age of Empires 4, which reviewed well, and then like, oh, if you want to include Deathloop because that's an Xbox studio now, then you can. And you look at it like, damn, this is a year that like Sony would love to have, that Nintendo would love to have, like all their major releases all scored in the 80s, with most of them scoring in the high 80s and one of them in the low 90s. Like, that's an incredible year for any publisher at any point in time. And that's just something that we as Xbox fans, and me and you, Jez, have hoped Microsoft would essentially aspire to. And it only really took a couple years. Do you have any thoughts about like what I'm saying about this, or is this kind of just like common sense stuff?
No, I think you're completely right that like there's been a chain of events that sort of worked out well for Microsoft and probably Sony, frankly, in that they were able to, I don't know, not push development back, but they were a bit more. They had the ability to be a bit more lenient with how hard they push because of the chip shortage. Like, if they were selling out of all their stock or whatever, I mean, if there was a healthy relationship between supply and demand right now for PS5 and Xbox Series X, there'd probably be a bigger demand for competition in the sense of we need to get these games out as fast as possible because Xbox is doing this, Sony's doing that, blah 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 blah. And because of that, Sony and Microsoft have been pretty easy about delaying some of the games and stuff, and which should lead to better products in the end. We think, we hope. But at the same time, it's going to be like, they still want us on the consoles playing, and they still want to stay in the news cycle and stay relevant. And obviously, they don't want, especially with Microsoft, they don't want the Game Pass sub to they don't want people to lapse their Game Pass sub because there's nothing to play, there's nothing new to play, which is a problem Netflix has, right? They constantly have to look for new content to make sure that people stay subscribed every month, because you can just cancel your sub whenever you feel like it. And if people feel like canceling the sub because there's nothing to play, then that's not good for Microsoft. So, on the one hand, yeah, more delays and making sure the games are like the minimum viable product to like hit a high meta score is a good thing, but it probably leaves them in a situation where they need to hit more acquisitions, because if they are gonna delay games because they don't feel the pressure because of the supply situation, that gives them an opportunity to invest further for when the chip shortage is solved and they can put the pedal to the metal, and when they do start putting the pedal to the metal, they're going to need more studios. They're going to need more content month by month. They're going to need support studios, and Sony just picked up a support studio, which worked on a bunch of Microsoft games, which probably I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft was in the bidding for that, and they just got sniped or something. I don't know, but I can't imagine Microsoft's super happy about losing Valkyrie, because Valkyrie did work on a bunch of Microsoft games. So I think like there can't be any room for complacency. Microsoft had a great year, yeah, but there still can't be any room for complacency. Look at how hard Netflix is pushing now that Disney Plus is like a force to be reckoned with. Like that, and like there's all these other services going really hard, and a lot of people are probably looking at all the subscriptions they've got and like, can I really like afford to pay for Disney Plus and this and Paramount Plus and Netflix and the Netflix extra subscription and YouTube Premium and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and all this stuff? They're not just competing with Sony with their subscription service, really. They're competing with every subscription service. Yeah, Stodgy Caesar calling me out, fraud alert. You said before they had enough studios.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that. I remember when I said that, and you were like, "Oh, well,
Florida.
that's just what did you say? It's just it was just When I said, oh, they should buy Warner Brothers and then buy this and this and this, and you're like, that's too many studios, that's diminishing returns or whatever. Now it's like now they need more. So okay, Jez,
Yeah,
I feel
check
it.
on that.
Yeah.
I think like there probably is a point where there is diminishing returns, but they're nowhere near hitting it. And like with PlayStation coming in with PlayStation Plus, it sort of creates a sort of, I don't know, an impetus really to sort of go even harder. And I do think they compete with the streaming services.
Of course, everything competes for your time, right?
Yeah.
Like everything competes for your time. So I think what my main thing was, like, we've seen Xbox at their worst. We've seen them make wrong decisions. We've seen them push out games when they weren't ready. And that was kind of just like, oh, how horrible it can be to be an Xbox fan sometimes. But to me, it more or less seems like they have it down now. And they have enough studios where they don't need to put out a game on schedule. Like Gears Coalition was basically carrying the Xbox One generation. And if they were staying to that 3-year dev cycle, Gear 6 would be coming out next year. Right? Because it came out in 2019. Now you're looking at Gear 6 potentially not even being the next game that the Coalition releases, right?
Yeah, maybe.
That they're doing a smaller game first and then Gear 6 later. So now you're even saying, like, Gears might get...
Is that the rumor?
Well, I mean, you were the one who was saying this.
Oh, well, I know. All I know is they're working on 2 projects. I don't know.
They're working on two projects, and I think the Grub has said that he thinks the other game is first. They're going to do the other game first, and then do Gear 6. Which, if that's the case, Gear 6 may come out in 2024, 2025, which would be 5 to 6 years instead of 3. So then you basically give them a lot more time to refocus on what makes Gears and make it even better. Whereas before, you would just expected Xbox to put out Halo Infinite at the launch of the console because they needed it, because old Xbox would have done that. And they would have been like, oh, whatever, yeah, okay, we can fix the game later. Even though maybe some of the decisions they did, especially with co-op and stuff like that, but the game would have been worse for it. And now you look at next year and you're like, Redfall, Forza Motorsport, Starfield. We know from, the Game Awards, Crossfire X is February 10th. Stalker 2 is April 28th. Tunic is March 16th. Scorn's supposed to come out at some point, right? So, like, the beginning, even though it's not first party, there are some games from February, March, and April that are going to be exclusive for Xbox. And it's like, okay, that's a good start because... we're not getting first party until the end of the year. I'm just really impressed with how everything turned out this year. Like, I did not expect all their games to hit the way they hit this year. If this is what I want from them moving forward. If something's not working, give them time, because I expect good games from Xbox. I expect quality games for Xbox. Like, I don't want to have to sit here in 2 years and be like, Hellblade 2, we need it to come in 2023, but it's not ready, so we're going to push it out, and because of it, it doesn't get good reviews. Like, if something's not working, delay it. You have as much studios, you have so many studios that you can do that. Like, moving forward, I want, like, all these Xbox games should all be 80 plus. That should be the minimum. The minimum should be the game needs to be an 80. The game needs to be good, because, like, if that's not your aim, then what are we even talking about here? Like, I don't care if it's a big AAA game. I don't care if it's a small indie game like Pentiment or Project Belfry or Project Shaolin or whatever. The games need to be quality. Period. End of story. Like, I don't want to have to sit through a 2017 or 2018 or 2019 with a bunch of Xbox games that come out that are 60 Metacritic simply because you needed stuff to come out. Like, those days need to be done and over with.
You're right.
So,
you are totally right. We can't have like a Netflix situation where they release Cowboy Bebop and can cancel it after one season.
Yeah, well, a lot of people were like, yeah. Chinook guy says, "Be super honest with me. Do you really think Halo Infinite can go for 10 years?" Multiplayer wise, yeah, probably. Maybe not necessarily 10 years on Xbox One. I mean, who knows?
I
Like,
mean, Xbox Series X.
or yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, how long has Rainbow Six Siege been going on for now? That's been going on for what, 6 years at this point? It's probably gonna
Look
hit.
at CS:GO, man. Look,
Yeah, like
look at CSC 1.6. Really,
hmm.
people still play Unreal Tournament 99. Not many people, but
um,
I suppose like the question is Microsoft really going to support it for 10 years? And I suppose it ultimately depends on like if people are still playing it.
yeah,
I want to believe that they will keep it going, and I want to believe that that includes story DLC, and they do have like a decent plan for it all. But I think if they are going to go for this sort of grandiose vision, um, Joseph Staten's the man to do it, man.
yeah, indeed. I'm happy that he's in charge. Well, I wonder if he'll get the promotion to head of 343, because I think he's just like creative director. So I wonder if he eventually just becomes the head of 343 Studios, like Cliff Lee was before he left.
Part of me just wonders if he prefers the creative aspects.
Yeah,
of
maybe he
it and
does.
prefers the creative processes.
Yeah, maybe he does. Devin
Maybe they
says.
just give him like more authority in his current role or something. I don't know.
Devin says, "Did you hear the news today that PlayStation acquired another studio?" Indeed, we talked about that. I don't even know the name of the studio off the top of my head.
It's Valkyrie, right?
Valkyrie.
Isn't it Valkyrie?
Yes, they help worked on Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon and Halo. They're a sports studio that does a lot of stuff, and PlayStation acquired them to help out with their studios. There's gonna be a battle for support studios because big AAA games require a lot of studios. Halo. I think Halo had what? How many? 15 support studios credited, something like that.
That's correct.
Or 12 or something. We know like Last of Us had like 14 studios credited. It takes a lot of people to make a big AAA game, so those support studios are really important. Chinook guy says, "Will we see bigger gaps in between their titular games from now on and more variety?" Well, I don't think we'll see another Halo. I think we'll just get one Forza Motorsport because I think that's going to be games as a service. I do think we'll get another Forza, but it won't be every 2 years like it used to be. I think the next Forza is on a 3 to 4 year cycle. So I do think simply because Chinook guy, games take so long to make now. You can no longer pump out something in 2 years. So you're looking 3 to 4. And
Unless you Call of Duty.
Unless you're Call of Duty, but even then they're on 3 year cycles.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's probably not good enough. But that's why you need more studios, because the more studios you have, the more games you can make, the more gaps you can fill. Especially if other games in your catalog or your roadmap get delayed, like Everwild was kind of like soft rebooted to a certain degree. That game was revealed. Wasn't Everwild revealed in 2019, Jez, at XO?
Yeah, damn.
Yeah, and then they showed it again at E3 2020, and who knows when we'll see it again. But it's last generation, that game would have been important. Maybe it wouldn't have been rebooted. They would have been like, you know what? Just keep on going with it. Or maybe it's canceled. Maybe they put it out, but instead it's like, all right, we have time. You can make this into something. So, Souls Ninja says, "Love you guys. We love you. We love everybody here on Friday. If you're joining the show, make sure you hit the like button. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Also, if you guys are listening later on Spotify or any of the podcast services, we're kind of doing like mini podcast episodes. If I think, Jez, you were saying people can leave us voice messages on Spotify.
Yeah. Man, I'm still unsure how it works, right? Because I can't see them. I think it's US exclusive right now. But if you go to the Xbox2.com and you're in the US, there is a button you can click on, apparently, which lets you leave us a voicemail. And if we get a bunch of those, we'll put them all together and do like a mini podcast answering those questions.
So we sort of did one this past week, which is podcast exclusive. if you guys want to
Yeah.
listen to it. So if you have any questions you absolutely need to hear from us or hear us answer directly, more in depth, you can definitely do that. Jacqueline says, what are the top free agents in your guys' opinion? Free agents, huh? Is this like
Free agent
basketball,
studios.
football, like signing studios?
I really want to see them buy 11-bit studios.
Mm,
I think 11-bit is they're going to be really big in the next few years. They just announced the switch to Unreal Engine. They made Frostpunk, Children of Morta. I think we talked about this last week.
yeah.
I think that'd be a good studio to pick up. But I think they've got aspirations of going public, personally. I think a lot of the smaller indie sort of publishers, I've seen what Devolver Digital have done with going public and just like having a laser focus on smaller games that have just a very high quality with absolutely sick marketing. And now they've gone public and they've made a whole ton of money from doing it. So I do wonder if a lot of indie studios are thinking about that. I feel like a lot of power has shifted to some smaller studios these days because as we move into sort of a subscription-based economy for this stuff, it's ultimately the quality devs that have all the power because all these big companies like Tencent and Sony and Microsoft, they're really hunting for acquisitions. And because of inflation, which we talked a bit about last week, Microsoft's got a load of money sitting there just doing nothing. So they're technically losing money with inflation. So they might as well invest it in growth if they can. So it only makes sense to buy more studios, especially in the Game Pass universe. So
Yeah. People are saying that a Scorn trailer dropped today with the release date of October of 2022.
Ah, right. Interesting.
So a year from now. And that game was supposed to come out this year. Yeah, so.
Well, maybe that's a good thing it was delayed.
Yeah, a good thing. Delays are always a good thing. Face says, I've noticed Sony is doing 2-year exclusives or console exclusives. Is this the new trend? Now will Xbox do the same thing? No, Xbox will not do the same thing. If you notice, Face, a lot of Xbox's exclusives is for Game Pass, like The Ascent, 12 Minutes, even the Medium. They're all really short because Xbox wants to put them on Game Pass, but they're not, like, they aren't really required to sign that long of an exclusivity contract because they all end up on PlayStation. PlayStation's ones that have like the bigger, stricter kind of agreement. I think Forspoken is a 2-year console exclusive, which is a long time. I don't know, Jez, you also see the Game Awards that Final Fantasy VII Remake is finally coming to PC, Epic Game Store, full price, $70.
Gross.
Still,
I don't get that. Are they like? It's so Square Enix is such a strange company. Like they do some like really cool things with Final Fantasy 14 and like really pro consumer stuff, and then they want to sell like what is essentially an old ass game for full price on a store everyone hates.
I know, right?
Like they seem so tone deaf at times. I don't get them.
So yeah, it's just Sony's probably gonna try to do more and more of those things. I don't think Xbox is gonna do that at all. Like I don't think Xbox is gonna do 2-year deals. So PlayStation is definitely more aggressive when it comes to stuff like that. But a 2-year deal, I guess maybe doing a 2-year deal for Forspoken or Final Fantasy 16 makes more sense because for Square, because like Sony's gonna pay plus our entire audience for this type of game is on PlayStation anyways. So whereas like if you got like a Western game, would probably cost a lot. So yeah, no, I don't think Xbox is interested in doing 2-year exclusives. But who knows if that does become the norm? I mean, who knows if Forspoken, maybe that game doesn't hit the numbers that Square wants because of the exclusivity. Who knows? But yeah, so let's talk about the Game Awards themselves, Jez.
Sure. Game Awards, baby.
So I think we sort of gave our opinions of it before. It's not really an award show. It's essentially a marketing show. which
Yes.
I know you agree with, and I think there was some people who don't. It was like, I don't know how you could watch last night's show and think to yourself, this is an award show dedicated to giving out and celebrating the video game industry. It's not. It's a marketing event, and that's 100% what it is. Now, did anything stand out to you about the award show? Any game announcements? Anything that happened?
Well, I didn't watch it. I told you. Like, the problem with the Game Awards for me
Can
is
I
that
just
it's on at 2 a.m.
Can I just butt in for a second? This is one of the issues I have with Jez when it comes to podcasting, because there'll be stuff that happens or stuff he needs to watch and he doesn't. He never does. And I'm just like, hey, you want to talk about this? And he'll be like, I didn't watch it, dude. I don't know what it is. And I'll be like, well, how are we going to talk about it on the podcast? And he'd be like, I don't know. So it's like, here's the Game Awards, the big thing. And I'm like, did you watch any of the trailers? You know anything that's going on?
I watched the trailers. I watched the trailers. I just didn't watch the stuff, like the music stuff.
Oh,
and
well, yeah.
Jeff Keighley getting all, chilling up on stage and stuff like that. I don't know. It's on at 2 a.m. You expect me to watch that at 2 a.m, man?
Mm.
You can move it to a more friendly British time, then maybe I would watch it. But until that day comes, I ain't gonna be watching that show. But I saw a lot of the trailers. But what did you think of the show? Tell me what you thought of it. I mean, other than the fact that it was a marketing event, was there any like cool moments? Was there any controversy? Did anyone get up drunk on stage and throw up or something?
Speaking about drunk,
like
so here's what me and my friends do every year, right? We get an Excel list, we pick the winners, right? And if you get something wrong, you got to drink, right? Anytime world premiere is announced, you have to drink.
I thought you didn't drink.
Well, I don't drink. So when that happens, I take a sip of my Propel, but everybody else drinks, right? So everybody,
Propel?
It's like electrolyte water, essentially from Gatorade. It's I stopped drinking pop, I think, like last year, so I drink this water. But so we all get together, we all watch it, and we're all it makes the Game Awards tolerable because we're all sitting there basically making fun of it, right? Just having a good time. People are getting drunk, so I'm watching it with people, and they were drinking every time world premiere would show up or be announced, and one of my buddies was literally shit-faced within an hour and a half. Like an hour and a half in, he's completely just wrecked. And then he just disappears for the rest of the show. He must have like fallen asleep or something.
Oh no.
So we were doing that. We were just kind of making fun of the show. It made it bear. It's like, it's number one, it's too long. It is 3.5 hours long. It is too long. And it makes it like a little bit boring because of it. And not every announcement is like super interesting. So yeah, so these are the things that really kind of stood out to me. One, Jeff Keighley coming out there and kind of vaguely talking about abuse, right? Because of the whole Activision stuff. But then he starts the award show off with Sting singing a song from Arcane, which is based on League of Legends. And Riot Games has had a lot of history with, abuse at their company. And then, of course, there's the Star Wars Eclipse game that was announced by Quantic Dream, and there's been lawsuits against that company. So it's like, geez, okay, so... But, of course, I think the thing that probably everybody's talking about today is Hellblade 2. Microsoft showed off... I think we mentioned how all the way back in July, I think it was, that Hellblade 2 was going to be at the Game Awards. It was there.
I wasn't sure if it was the Game Awards because I didn't know if Microsoft was going to do an EXO or something like that. I just knew Hellblade was coming at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And Game Awards made the most sense.
So let's talk about Hellblade 2 because I do think is the thing most people will talk about from this show. And they mentioned how this is gameplay, it's not cinematic, because definitely some people out there are saying it's definitely not gameplay, that it's just a cutscene. But they're definitely, when I was watching it, and I watched it again in 4K on my TV, and it's like sometimes I don't think how good these games look come across very well in these Twitch streams or YouTube streams.
Yeah.
But then you watch it in like the 4K trailer, and you're like, holy crap. But what are your thoughts on Hellblade 2? Because you've been the one out there being like, I hope it's not a walking sim. I hope it's more in depth and there's more things to do. Did this new
And that's
did this new trailer
yeah.
assuage your fears, or are you still a little bit worried?
Well, it's very selfish of me, um, because I'm not a huge fan of those sort of interactive cinematic experiences. I appreciate them for what they are. I just constantly think this could have been something more, like more interactive, and that's what I want out of my gaming. But it's a very selfish thing, so I'm not gonna begrudge them if they are making like a quote unquote walking simulator. But I did get a sense from the trailer that it was heavily scripted. Like as gorgeous as it looked, and it did look gorgeous, like uncannily crazy visuals. My worry is that they're only able to achieve those kind of visuals because it's very scripted and like, you know, lacking sort of the dynamism. Like there's not as many moving parts. Like you railroaded into what is essentially a pre-rendered cutscene. So like that is still my concern. And you can sort of see in the trailer, I think when she's like shooting the giant, which my god, absolutely crazy visuals. When she's shooting the giant, you can see that there's some player interaction there. I think. I kind of got a sense that maybe you aim the shots or something, and then do the attacks. But if it is a walking simulator, sort of like cinematic experience that's very scripted and sort of narrow, I wasn't expecting it to be like open world, Breath of the Wild, or something like that, or like Horizon Zero Dawn. But I was hoping that it'd be sort of like a bit more of a classic video game, I guess. But if it is gonna be sort of similar experience to the first game, just sort of like on the next level, I'm intrigued to see how that pans out too. And I'm pretty excited for it. Like the music from Heilung, who's one of my favorite bands now, um, was incredible. I just keep thinking like there's so much in the sort of the Nordic pantheon of myths that they could tap into to build the game. Like they've shown off giants right now. Like what the hell was wrong with that giant? It looked like it had been cut in half or something, but it was still alive. It was just absolutely crazy. Um, I'm gonna like I'm gonna try and do some research to see if that's like some kind of reference to a story or something like that. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, what did you think? Because I know you're a fan of those kind of experiences anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looked incredible. I don't know if that's like the new standard for games, and then, plus there's the whole Matrix Awakens Unreal Engine 5 demo, which people are going ridiculous over. I haven't tried that yet, but I mean, it
That was
looks
the coalition, right?
supposedly, yeah, they helped out on it. I'll have to try it out for myself, but I loved what I saw from Hellblade 2. But then again, I love Hellblade 1. I really do enjoy what Jez was called walking simulators. My hope is, I guess maybe you could say I was a little bit disappointed we didn't get to see any combat. Because I want to see how much, because they talk about the combat in Hellblade 2 being like more brutal and stuff. And that is one area of the first game that I do wish is going to be improved, is the combat, because it's very basic. And with all the extra time and money, I want to see that to be vastly improved. Now, you are right in the sense that it is very cinematic and almost looks like it plays out like a cinematic cutscene. But maybe they're going for a lot of those animation transitions where you can't tell where it is gameplay and where it's a cutscene.
Yeah.
Which, if so, that'd be super cool. But it does kind of seem what Ninja Theory wants to do in general. So, but yeah, like hearing the voices and the earphones and like seeing that, I'm just like, oh man, they're going to kill it. No date given, not even a year. So, I've been expecting 2023 for Hellblade 2. Do you still think that's when it's kind of targeting, or without a date? Because I don't think anything from the show had 2023 as a date.
Yeah,
So
I think it's still going to come in 2023, but that's based on just nothing really. Well, actually, I think Jeff Grubb actually said 2023,
yeah,
but it seemed like a pretty decent timeline for it. You know, well, some people are saying in the chat like it's still a small team and stuff like that, so limit your expectations. But I mean, yeah, I didn't have expectations. I just had hopes.
it's it's
I was
it's
just hoping that they'd double down on the combat aspects of the first game rather than I don't know, the sort of, I don't know, what else do you call it? The puzzle solving stuff. I don't want to see any of them symbol puzzles, man. I thought they were so tedious and lame, personally.
mm,
But what ifs? And someone just made the point that Alan Wake 2 had a 2023 date in the show.
okay. Yeah, it did. I think also Hellblade 2. I think they have more than double the amount of developers on it than the first game. So, I mean, not saying that it's going to be twice as big as the game as the first one, but I mean, you've read some stuff about how Hellblade 2 was like a 9,000 mile journey through Iceland or something, right?
Oh, well, that was from me. I said that.
Yeah, but so I
Um,
mean,
yeah, I heard that it was just going to be like, but that's again, that can be interpreted in many ways. It can be very narrow walk across Iceland, right?
sure, it could be. I don't know. I guess like we didn't really see too much to kind of like put your fears to rest about it just being a
It's
prettier
not fair.
looking.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine with it. Like I just sort of, I just think
It's
I
still
just prefer like bigger action games. I guess
yeah.
it's just a preference,
It's
selfish preference. They can make whatever game they want at the end of the day,
well now that
and I'll be happy with it.
now that Halo's out, Hellblade 2 is my most anticipated game from Xbox. Period. Or Bethesda. Period. Like there's no game I want more than Hellblade 2. The only one that overall that I want more than Hellblade 2 is God of War Ragnarok. But even like more than Suicide Squad, more than the new Batman game, more than even Alan Wake, although maybe Alan Wake is slightly beneath it. I love the Ninja Theory. I love most of their games, and I adored Hellblade 1. So I'm so excited for Hellblade 2. And it was super cool to be able to see that last night. 2 years after they revealed it, at the Game Awards in 2019, to see it here, to know it's still coming and how incredible it looks, and how you have like all these people following you, like Senua's in charge of an army.
It looked really that stuff looked like really cool. I just wonder, like, again, my brain just said to me, "Man, that's all scripted." But what if it isn't scripted? What if the
Well, I could
NPCs
definitely
are
tell
actually
there are
that good?
moments where you were controlling her. Like with the parts where she was running backwards or whatever, that is definitely player controlled. And I just wonder if like the person playing was just running backwards. I wonder if you can run off in different directions, like maybe grab a spear, But for the sake of the
Yeah.
demo, they just like, okay, we're running back, we're sneaking forward. I don't know. I just really want to play this game. It's got me so excited for it. Hopefully next time we see a combat trailer, because I really hope the combat is improved. Rapid Ryan says, "You guys rock. Favorite podcast of my week. Just wanted to send some love and hugs." Well, thank you for the support.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I know. I see some people saying they want Fable. Yeah, I don't think we'll see Fable for a bit. I'm not even convinced we're going to see Fable next year, Jez.
Yeah, maybe Fable's the year after. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm Starfield's still at the top of my pile. I'm all about them
I
creation
know.
engine.
No, I mean
RPGs.
I'm interested in Starfield simply because it's sci-fi, but it's all about Hellblade for me. But that was really the only Xbox game there. Even though we saw Crossfire X trailer and that's coming out in February, campaign looks really cool. And what was the other game? Tunic, an Xbox game coming out in March. We kind of talked like maybe Avowed's going to be there, maybe Redfall's going to be there. There wasn't anything from Bethesda outside of like a job list, like Todd Hines basically being like, "Come work at Bethesda. We're making a whole bunch of games, right?"
Huh.
And honestly, I'm just gonna say it here, because I said it to you beforehand. I think Avowed would have been wasted at the Game Awards.
Hmm.
I don't think they
Better
needed it
E3.
because, well, like, no, because like I feel like you gave them Hellblade 2, and that's enough, and like then giving them Avowed is just would have taken maybe some of like people's the eyes away from Hellblade, or some of the what's the word I'm looking for, like
Luster.
not that, it was just kind of like that mind share. Like people are just like people today are all pointing to some like different things like Hellblade, or Alan Wake, or Suicide Squad. But if you add like Avowed there, maybe it like splits that, and it's like I just sort of feel that it was probably a better decision to hold it for E3. And people are saying Somerville. Asante says Somerville's an Xbox exclusive. It is that is true as well. That was at the show, although we didn't get.
What is that game?
That's from the guy who left Playdead, who did the Limbo,
Oh, yeah.
and he formed his own studio. And
I wonder what happened there.
yeah, I don't know. Spooky Sprocket says Xbox 2. You are two of the most swell guys on YouTube, always welcoming, consistent with your energy and thoughts on gaming. Appreciate you both, Jez and Rand, and all your hard work
Thanks
you both
so
put
much.
in. Thank you. Yeah, so I felt like Avowed would have been almost wasted there. That it was just that it was fine that it's just Hellblade, because I think most people didn't really care for the awards show, and I don't know if you want to show too much. And I think E3 means more, because look at this last year's E3. People loved what Xbox was doing, and I think
That's
you
true.
mentioned before, like, do they want to give everything to Jeff to make his show the de facto Q4? No, you don't. So at some point, I think when in-person meetings and events come back, Xbox might want to do an XO. So they're going to want to save stuff for their own show if they do something like XO 2021 or XO 2022, where you could show stuff and you don't necessarily always have to give it to Jeff. So it's great that we got one game, Hellblade 2, people want to see. But yeah, I don't think Avowed would have just been wasted, bro. I think. I know maybe some people would be like, I'd rather would have seen Avowed instead of Hellblade, and I could see that. But I think only showing one game is probably the way to go. Because there are people on Twitter, quote unquote insiders, that were like, Fable's gonna be there, and Hellblade, and Avowed, and Fable, and it's like, you guys
really?
nuts? Yeah. Like, there's gonna be one, at most two, and that's it. But you know how the whole insider game is played, pretending you know stuff, and then when you're wrong, make up excuses like, oh, it got pulled or whatever, right? But yeah, Installation 7 says, is Crossfire X an exclusive or timed exclusive? We don't know. We don't know. Yeah.
I think it might be a PUBG situation, maybe.
Yeah,
where it's timed for a while.
With the gunk,
that's going free to play. That was an announcement.
Yeah, with the gunk, we know the gunk is a permanent exclusive. And that Stalker's like at least 3 months. I don't know about Crossfire X.
Then?
I think, isn't Crossfire X being published by Microsoft or Xbox?
Yeah, but wasn't PUBG as well?
Yeah, and that was exclusive for a year.
The way it's weird the way Microsoft's publishing stuff works now. They've got like 3 tiers of publishing basically. They've got like their true indie publishing, which is like true indie hands-off publishing. But then they have like a higher tier of indie publishing where Microsoft gets a bit more involved in the marketing, like the Gunk, for example. And then they have like the sort of high tier of publishing, like what they're doing with Contraband and Project Dragon, which we still haven't seen. So like they have like multiple levels of how involved they want to get with some of these games, which is it gets confusing when you're trying to like work out like, is this exclusive, whatever, and trying to like work out a pattern. I think ultimately every deal is kind of different at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But you can think of either Xbox really operates these days more like they operate more like a publishing label for games that don't hit retail, is what I was told. Is that idea Xbox is like their publishing label for games that aren't yet at retail and they're just going like direct to digital. But obviously, like you can get PUBG at retail now, and the game expanded and it blew up, and then it got its lunch ate by your bros, Epic Games, the Fortnites, and all that stuff. So, yeah, Microsoft had a big marketing push for PUBG. Like, even though they didn't own the IP or nothing like that, it was just the way it all worked out, I guess.
Yeah. So let me see. What else really stood out to me from the Game Awards? Alan Wake 2, of course. I am so excited that it's coming back. In 2023, more survival horror, which is an interesting way to take Alan Wake, but I don't care. We're getting a sequel. Yeah, I know some people. I guess there's some question about whether Hellblade 2 is an Xbox exclusive. Yes. Some people are saying they didn't say it was an exclusive, so maybe it's coming to PlayStation 5.
No,
it's not.
It's an
Xbox. They're only really saying that with the Bethesda games because there's some question mark there. So, Hellblade is only going to be on Xbox. But Alan Wake 2, I'm super pumped about. It's next gen only. It's an epic, I think, publishing deal. So that's really interesting. But it doesn't matter. I'm so happy we finally get to see the next chapter in the story. And then after that, what else really stood out to me? Suicide Squad. We actually got to see the gameplay trailer for Suicide Squad, and it looked better than I thought it was going to be. It reminded me a lot of Sunset Overdrive. I don't know. Like I've told you, Jez, like. You buy Warner Brothers games, you get Rocksteady. They're one of the best developers out there, and they kind of prove it again with that trailer, man. Like that game looks a lot of fun to play. Dio Game says Microsoft is no longer publishing Crossfire. Smilegate now is. So I guess that may be that might be true. I don't know. Can you find out that info, Jez, if that's true?
I can look it up. Yeah, not right now. Maybe for next show.
So what do you have any thoughts on Suicide Squad at all?
Cringe.
Okay,
very cringe.
You're cringe. There are a lot of moments that were cringe at the Game Awards. Like,
dude, I just hate the whole Suicide Squad. What passes for humor in that franchise. And I know people like comic book movies and that's supposed to be a bit more humorous or whatever. I don't know. But for me, it's cringe, man. Suicide Squad it was just so cringy. I was just like, man, this is cringe. Pass. And also, maybe I'm just salty that I have no one to play it with. Because it's a co-op game, right?
No, you can play a single player if you want. There's this. Yeah, but you could switch.
They were sort of pitching it as a
obviously you could play it as a four player co-op game, but I think all four players are on screen, or all four characters, and you can switch in between them at any point in time.
Oh right, that's interesting.
No, I thought it looked incredible, and I was a little bit worried because it's like, Rocksteady and guns, how's that going to work out? But that definitely really surprised me.
You didn't cringe at the humor, quote unquote humor?
No, I'm fine with the humor. I'm fine with it. Fine with that.
I thought it was pretty cringe, man. That was pretty cringe, bro.
Now, an announcement nobody expected. They revealed Wonder Woman by Monolith, Warner Brothers Games. Definitely super interesting because their last two games were Lord of the Rings related, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. Now they're working on a Wonder Woman game, which I think the YouTube description said it's single player, kind of open world, blah, 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 blah. Sounds really cool. Now, Jez, I have a conspiracy theory. You ready for this?
Oh, let's hear it.
I don't know if this means anything. It probably doesn't, but I thought it was interesting. So they announced Wonder Woman without announcing any consoles it's for. There was no Xbox Series X or S at the bottom. There was no PS5 at the bottom. There was no PC. Just Wonder Woman's coming. And it had Monolith and it had the Warner Brothers games. No systems were announced for it. And if you go look, the Wonder Woman trailer is not on Xbox's official page and it's not on PlayStation's official page. They haven't uploaded the trailer for that game to either one of them when they have the trailers for all the other games at the Game Awards on both. Like if you go to PlayStation's website, all the trailers are there. You go to Xbox's website, all the trailers are there for Wonder Woman. All the trailers are there from the Game Awards. But there's nothing there from Wonder Woman yet. Is that... Am I starting to think, like, is there maybe something going on? Maybe someone's trying to, like, maybe someone's trying to buy Warner Brothers, or maybe someone's trying to negotiate exclusivity. What would be the reason for not announcing systems and then not having the trailers on either one of those platforms?
I think that they're trying. The thing is, right, the industry's changed. And, like, I think every time a game is made, the publisher goes to Microsoft and Sony and probably says, do you want to purchase exclusivity on this? And they probably just haven't gone through those negotiations yet. And like maybe the company's just like, nah, we don't exclusivity. Or like, yeah, we'll give you exclusivity, but we're only going to give you this much money. I think they make those deals constantly, and they have to, discuss that and stuff. Even for games that do go multi-platform, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft has to pay to get some games, whereas Sony doesn't. Sometimes I actually totally believe that, because they know Microsoft's got money, and they wanna like abuse that fact, which is why Microsoft's a big target for being sued as well by other companies. But so I just think they haven't done the negotiations about some like routine negotiations about are they gonna make it exclusive? Does anyone want to pitch in for exclusivity? Does Epic Games want to maybe buy it for their Epic Games store or stuff like that? Because Warner Brothers are one of those like companies like Square Enix that always try and get a bit of cash on the side with these kind of deals. I don't know, but I have to wait and see.
Well,
what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it means anything. I don't know if that's like normal, where they announce a game like this that may be years out and they don't have systems it's announced for, and then it doesn't get uploaded on any of Xbox's, PlayStation, or Nintendo's YouTube channels. So it was just something I noticed, because like every game last night that was announced had a platform announced for it in some manner, whether it was Xbox One and Series S and PS5 and PS4 and Switch, or just Xbox Series X and like Alan Wake 2. All I said was Epic, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, right? Like every announcement last night had some systems announced with it. And when I was like, okay, and Jeff's like, you don't have this game on your bingo card and it didn't leak. Here's the trailer. It's like, oh shit, a Wonder Woman game? I'm like, that's cool. I would like a Wonder Woman game. And then it was like, okay, and then it didn't say, I was thinking, oh, is this next gen only? And it didn't have any of the consoles at the bottom, didn't have any of the platforms. I was like, huh, okay, that's odd. And then it was like, oh, and I went on, or before we did the podcast, I went on their YouTube channels, and Wonder Woman's not on PlayStation or Xbox's YouTube channel. So I was like, huh, okay, that's interesting. I don't know if that means anything. So I'm not saying it does. I just thought it was interesting. And I thought to myself, like, well, we know Warner Brothers was trying to sell themselves. Like maybe they're still, they don't want to announce it yet, because if you announce it for PlayStation and Xbox, but then what happens if PlayStation or Xbox buy Warner Brothers, but now you're locked into releasing the game for that? I don't know. There was just some thoughts going through my head about that.
It might literally be the first time they've even announced it to Xbox and PlayStation, and they're just putting it out there now and just being like, okay, you've heard of this game. We don't have platforms decided. Do you want to buy exclusivity? Do you want to buy like a timed exclusivity? I think that's the way it is, man.
Mm-hmm. Elite.
I don't think it means. I don't think Warner Brothers. I don't think Microsoft or Warner Brothers trying to acquire them or nothing.
Elite Edits says the Quantic Dream Star Wars game didn't have consoles at the bottom either.
That too. I think they're probably trying to negotiate a deal for that as well, probably. Because one of the first things I did when I looked that up, the first thing I did was I went and looked to see what platforms it was coming to. Because, you know, I like my Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I will accept a walking simulator if it's Star Wars.
Which, yeah, it is.
So, which it is. So I went and, you know, tried to find out what platforms it's on, and lo and behold, even on the website, it doesn't say any platforms.
Yeah, because I'm reading here. So no word yet on release date or platforms for Wonder Woman, and no word on release date or platforms yet for Star Wars Eclipse. So I guess that potentially means somebody could come in there and offer a lot of money for Star Wars Eclipse. I mean, we know Sony offered a lot of money for Star Wars Knights of the Republic, and they got that as exclusive, right?
Yeah, I almost feel like Microsoft's scared to do that after all the drama over Tomb Raider, all the pearl clutching by the media, like, oh, Microsoft big meanies making this exclusive. Oh no. You know, Microsoft almost feels afraid to do that now, but I guess we'll wait and see. I don't think they can afford to be afraid of doing those kind of deals if Sony's doing it. Like, Knights of the Old Republic going exclusive to Sony might pan out to nothing if the game sucks. And I personally can't see it being as good as the original, even though the original, by today's standards, is janky as hell and horrible. I just feel like it's going to be like a much smaller scope version of the original with pretty graphics, maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe it does turn out to be a banger. And if Knights of the Old Republic does turn out to be a total banger, then GG. Microsoft's put themselves in a position where they take a moral high ground and decide, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And ultimately, it's Xbox gamers who get screwed over, right?
Yeah.
So
we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll see what happens. Quantic Dream isn't working with PlayStation anymore. Does that mean like PlayStation wouldn't buy Star Wars Eclipse for, you know, right amount of money? I don't know.
I mean, if PlayStation could buy that Star Wars game and have the Old Republic, they're pretty much like they'll start to build up a mindshare for themselves as, oh, if I'm a Star Wars fan, I need a PlayStation. Yeah. Much like right now, it's like, oh, if I'm a Japanese games fan, I need a PlayStation. You know, no Bloodborne on Xbox. There's no Persona on Xbox. Atlas twisting the knife there with like going to pretty much every damn platform except Xbox. So like, if you are a fan of Japanese, like I got loads of DMs about Persona not coming to Xbox from people who are disappointed. Because like, I'd commented on the rumors and I'd heard that they were trying to get Persona. I mean, Phil basically admitted it on stage when he was like, "I hear you about Persona," you know. And there's just loads of people disappointed that it's still the case that Atlas doesn't like Xbox for whatever reason. And Sony's solidified themselves in that mindshare that if you like those kind of experiences, you have to buy a PlayStation. You have no choice. You basically have no choice. You have to buy a PlayStation. So, Sony has an opportunity there to do that for Star Wars 2, which could be potentially far more damaging than losing what are honestly comparatively niche games. So, I don't think Star Wars is ever going to be niche in any universe. Not even in a galaxy far, far away. See what I did there, Rand?
I see what you did there.
See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
So I think that'd be a smart play for Sony. I think Sony should do it.
Yeah.
And see a Microsoft response to that.
That would not be, yeah. Forte says, don't be a fraud, chat. Hit that like button. Great content only comes once a week. We need to show support before he makes PlayStation-only content. Winky face. That's not happening. You know it's not happening, Forte. Forte is trying to push me to make PlayStation content, and I don't care about PlayStation that way. Like, I don't care about them to make videos about them. We'll talk about them on the podcast for sure because it's part of the gaming industry and how it affects Xbox. Like Jez is saying, like, what if they bought exclusivity for Star Wars Eclipse and then they essentially own Star Wars, and that would definitely impact Xbox, but. Yeah, that's not happening, Forte. I'm sorry. Lydia says, should DC IP be restricted to Warner Brothers Studios? Marvel and Star Wars games are coming out from many different studios. Well, I mean, considering Warner Brothers games and Warner Brothers owns that stuff, it kind of makes sense. Star Wars games used to be only made by like Lucasfilm because they owned it when they actually had their own studios before they got out of the game. So they obviously feel like it's better to license that stuff out. With Warner Brothers having their own studios, they feel like, well, we're gonna make our own content. But then maybe you're right. Maybe it's just like Warner Brothers at some point might be like, we'll just license this stuff out. But I mean, who knows? I actually really want a Wonder Woman game now I'm thinking about it. Like, that could be really, really well done.
A damn thing about Wonder Woman. I know nothing.
You don't know anything about anything.
I know about Batman.
So you're saying this whole recent thing was that was your Rand impression?
That was my Rand impression.
Oh my god.
Yeah, my name's Rand.
That's not an impression. That's not an impression
Man
of
with
me.
a million.
It's a badass impression of you.
No,
I should be an impressionist. I should quit this whole game journalism thing
And just do Rand impressions all day long.
Oh my god.
My name's Rand.
What are you doing?
I don't know. What are you doing?
You know what you're doing? You're probably playing Dark Souls right now. You're not even paying attention to the podcast.
I am paying attention. I can grind and pay attention at the same time.
You're grinding because you're not good enough to just beat Dark Souls. You're sitting there grinding because you need souls, because you need to increase your health and attack. That's what you're doing.
I'm not touching those. I'm grinding for endurance because I want to use the shield because it looks cool, but I don't want fat rolls, man. So I need more endurance. My strength's staying at 32. I'm gonna complete the game with 32 strength, man.
Yeah,
but I'll probably have like 1 million endurance.
Dave's says Jez's Rand sounds like a hillbilly. Yeah, he does sound like a hillbilly, and I'm not a hillbilly. I take offense, sir. Why you do me like that?
Yeah, man. I'm sorry, brother.
Well, the other thing that we mentioned Star Wars Eclipse. I'm interested in that. That stood out. Arc Raiders look really interesting. The Expanse by Telltale Games. Hell yeah. I love The Expanse. I love the TV show. I have the books. I'll be reading those, but I didn't know I wanted an Expanse game by Telltale until I actually saw it up on the Game Awards, and I'm like, damn, I want this. And also Warhammer. A friend of mine keeps
telling me to get into Expanse.
Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 was a shocker because I really enjoyed Warhammer 40K Space Marine on the 360. It's like, damn, we're never going to get a sequel to this, but we are. So that was damn awesome. And then we had a trailer for the Halo TV show, which surprisingly looked really good. Looked like it actually had a budget. I just need a little bit more. There was a very, very short teaser, but from what we saw of it, it was like, damn, that actually seems like they spent quite a money. And I think I did see earlier today that they renewed it for season 2 already, before it's even come out, which is pretty damn awesome. So, yeah, Halo TV. There was also an ad for PC Game Pass. What did you think of the ad?
I didn't see the ad, but I saw the reactions to the ad, and they weren't very positive.
Yeah.
Was it really cringy?
Well, it was kind of like meta. They're like, oh, we're making an ad for PC Game Pass, and they had Little Dicky, who playing Dave from his TV show, talking about it, and it was just like, it was basically an ad trying to be hip, talking about the brand change, because it's no longer Xbox Game Pass for PC. It is now just PC Game Pass, right? But like they were teasing like 4 big day one games coming to Game Pass, and they revealed them, and it's kind of just like nothing. Nothing important. Nothing. It's like Sniper Elite 5. Sure, that's cool, but like the other 3 were just like, yeah, like what are you doing?
Microsoft. It's so funny how little Microsoft understands the PC audience, despite owning Windows. Like even beyond gaming, Microsoft doesn't have a clue how people actually use Windows or how people want to use Windows. They harvest all this telemetry data, and they don't seem to do anything with it. because they keep making decisions for Windows and gaming on PC that nobody wants, constantly, non-stop. They don't understand PC users, and it's hilarious to me. But with regards to PC Game Pass, the only thing Microsoft needs to do to market PC Game Pass to PC gamers is make the app slightly less than garbage. You know, I hate to be harsh, but that app is garbage. It's not just any old garbage. It's hot, spicy, landfill garbage. The app, it's terrible. It's a lot better than it used to be. Then it was like indescribable cosmic garbage that had gone to an alien dimension and spewed rotting corpses, the likes of which no man can describe with our limited scope of language. But the current app still sucks, basically. And all they need to do is fix that bloody app. Why can they not make an app? This is Microsoft. Software in their name. And they can't make something as basic as an app that can install a game. Why can't they do it,
Is
Rand?
it really that bad? I mean, I've never used it,
Crap.
so...
It's awful. It's slow. It fails constantly. There's threads on Reddit about it all the time. It's terrible. So I think Microsoft should stop trying to make cringy PC Game Pass ads until the app is less than garbage. There you go.
I mean, I haven't used it. I don't play on PC. I do have people telling me that it's horrible. Couldn't they just copy how Steam works and just do it like that?
Yeah. Copy Steam. Dude, the Epic Game Store is better than the Xbox app. There, I said it. I would rather use the Epic Game Store to install and download games than the Xbox app for PC Game Pass. There, I said it. I said it, Rand.
You did say it. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'll have to try it at some point, but I have no reason to because there's nothing on PC I want to play. So, until that day happens, I'll just take everyone's word for it because even people in chat are being like, Jez is right. Jez is being too kind to it, some people are saying. So, RDX Son of Fett says the Gears devs made the new Matrix demo. I mean, I think they helped on it. I don't think they necessarily made it because Epic would have made it. It's just that Gears devs helped out on it. I do have to play it because I hear people say it's really cool. I did download it last night, but I went to bed after it. So what else we got here? Phil Spencer talked about Jez, did you see this where he said Game Pass isn't the Xbox's sole focus?
I did hear something about that. Give us the full context.
Well, he basically said like what you've always said, like Game Pass is just one spoke in the wheel. Retail sales and everything else is also still incredibly important to the business. It's not just only about Game Pass, which is like something you always have talked about, right?
Yeah, I think the fear was always like, oh my god, it's gonna be like Microsoft's gonna only make cloud games now, and it's gonna be they're gonna get rid of the console, and it's never been about that. Like Game Pass is supposed to be an additional area of growth. Like why would they want to switch everything and put all their eggs into one basket? They're gonna have like multiple ways to multiple endpoints to the ecosystem. It's about having as many endpoints as possible. So like why would they go all in on cloud? Why would they go all in on this or all on the other? It's all about having a diverse portfolio of endpoints for the ecosystem. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is what he said.
But it's nice to hear him put it into, nice to hear him like just lay it out in black and white.
He goes, do I want or do I envision everybody who's on Xbox being a Game Pass subscriber? I don't. I want people to make their own choice. Some people want to buy all the games we ship and create their own library. Subscriptions give you a good continual revenue stream, and that's an important thing for any business on top of the spikes you'll get around certain retail releases. That's why I talk about it really being a mix of things. It's not about one muscling out the other. The business doesn't hinge on any one number. the retail sales number, the console sales number, the Windows engagement, Game Pass, xCloud engagement. It's really all of these things coming together. So, yeah. I know a lot of people will be like, well, it's it's only a matter of time before Microsoft makes all their games Game Pass only, or they don't care about X, Y, or Z. They don't care about their console sales. It's like, or the sales of the games. It's like that couldn't be further from the truth, because that's part of one of the reasons why the economy or the economies of Game Pass actually works, is because some people are going to subscribe, some people won't. Some people subscribe but then buy the game, and then buy DLC and microtransactions for it. Some people will never subscribe but still buy games, and it's a whole bunch of different things. But it's some people, it's like kind of the whole thing about like absolutes, So he also mentioned something about Bungie, where he felt that if the Xbox of today was around then, that he probably would have been able to retain Bungie instead of letting them go.
Yeah, I think like the fact that Phil sort of led Xbox to the senior leadership table of Microsoft gave them a lot more access to money and a lot more just political clout to give companies the freedom like that Mojang basically has now. So like the deal that Microsoft did for Minecraft and Mojang is basically what they could have done for Bungie if they like had a bit more foresight at the time. But alas,
Alas.
But who knows what the future will bring, right?
Who knows indeed. Let's see what else we got here. Hey, you want to talk about NFTs?
Oh no. Please.
Ubisoft announced Quartz, which was their NFT thing, and it was so disliked they had to remove it from YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's funny, they're doing their first NFT thing with the game nobody cares about, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And it's just like, what are you doing, Ubisoft? Like, why are we doing this?
Ubisoft are a joke. Like I used to. I never really thought they were the greatest publisher, but they've sort of slipped into a new level of being a joke in the last few years, in my opinion. Like, forget all the like abuse and stuff that they've been accused of and all that kind of thing. Like, even beyond that, which is of course terrible. Just everything else surrounding what they've done. I think their games are lame. I think they've sort of run out of ideas, announcing 10,000 Battle Royale games in the space of a week. Letting games sort of die. Where the hell's Rainbow Six Extraction? Where the hell's that pirate game? Like they just seem to be like spinning in the wind, trying to try everything and seeing what sticks. And the next thing they're trying to see what sticks is trying to get in on the NFT hype before it dies down or whatever. Do you want me to explain, for those who don't know, what exactly all this is?
I mean, if you want to. I know you feel a certain way about NFTs and all this stuff.
I actually don't mind NFTs themselves. The issue is Ubisoft's implementation of the NFTs, because they're not true NFTs. So an NFT stands for non-fungible token. I'm not going to go too in-depth in this because it's a bit boring if you're not interested in crypto and stuff. But basically, the concept is that the authenticity is a sort of incorruptible part of the blockchain, and whatever it is, whether it's a skin in a game or a crappy JPEG, there's like a little piece of code which says definitively you are the legal owner of this digital asset.
Mm-hmm.
Ubisoft's mentality is, we can apply this to skins. That would be really cool, mate. I don't know why they're suddenly from London, but
okay.
that is their mentality. Is that they can give people some sort of a cryptocurrency value on a skin. And there's games that already sort of do this without cryptocurrency. Like the whole CSGO thing. CS:GO skins are like they have like a digital scarcity attached to them, all without the blockchain and all without crypto. So like this stuff already exists, but Ubisoft's just getting in on it because they think they can make a bit of money. What really pissed me off about that trailer was the lies in it, Rand. It was just the lies, the sheer lies in the trailer. They were saying this is about the gamer giving you control of your digital assets that we made to sell for money. But they left that last part out. That obviously Ubisoft's going to take a cut of transactions on all the crypto used to buy the NFTs. And also they left out the part, and this is a lawsuit waiting to happen, that when Ghost Recon Breakpoint servers shut down, and they will shut down someday, probably sooner than you think, because like you said, I don't think a huge amount of people care about that game. What happens to your Ghost Recon Breakpoint digital skins then? They're gonna lose a whole bunch of value when you can't actually use them anymore. And then like there's an argument to be made that maybe there's like in France and Europe, where like Europe especially very skeptical of cryptocurrency, maybe there's a lawsuit down the line where someone's like, oh my god, Ubisoft deleted my digital asset on Ghost Recon Breakpoint, you know? So it's a load of bullshit, basically. It's Ubisoft lying to its customers about wanting to make a system that will help people, when really it's just about them making a whole bunch of money and having a whole bunch of crypto in their portfolio that they think will increase in value, like Tezos coin or wherever it is. That's what it's about. It's about Ubisoft amassing a hoard of cryptocurrency. But they just lied about it in the ad. And that's what annoyed me more than anything else. Because NFTs by themselves, there's nothing really wrong with them. You know, there's no difference between an NFT and a dumb picture in an art gallery that sells for $1 million just based on hype. There's no real difference between that. What gets me is the lies, Rand. The lies to Ubisoft customers that this is anything other than Ubisoft amassing a load of crypto that you, the gamer, has to pay for. And judging by the dislikes, nobody fell for it. And they all called out Ubisoft what it is. It's basically a scam. And I hope Ubisoft drowns in their crypto and goes out of business. Why not? Let's go all the way there.
Hey, you want them
They
to
can
go out of business? Damn.
Yeah, why not? They can go out of business. Screw them. I just hate them. I hate liars, man. I hate liars, and Ubisoft are just really proficient at lying for some reason. But whatever. That's the whole crypto thing.
Yeah.
The truth is, it's probably going to happen. It's probably going to take off, and probably every game publisher is going to be
EA's
involved.
looking at it. Like they're all looking at it because they all think it's like a way for them to make endless money because they'll charge a transaction fee, right? If users basically sell stuff to one another, that they'll charge a transaction fee, and so it's like it's probably going to happen. We'll see if it takes off, but I don't know. Phil's talked about how he feels like it's more exploitation than entertainment right now.
Yeah,
but it's no surprise. Right. It's no surprise Ubisoft is there first. EA probably be there. I mean, EA already does like Ultimate Team BS, right? So I could totally see it happening. Adam says, will Sony with Sony letting go of the exclusive rights to Hellblade come back to haunt them as well as Ninja Theory? I don't think they have the exclusive rights to Hellblade. Hellblade just came out first on PlayStation. But it'll. I don't know if it'll come back to haunt them in that way. So I think them losing Bethesda games is way bigger than them not being able to have Ninja Theory games, essentially. So Jake Johnson says, will Xbox sales be closer this gen to PS5 than last gen, and how close? Love you guys. I think Xbox will regain some market share. It looks like maybe it's even possible Xbox outsold PlayStation this past November. We'll have to wait and see for MPDs, but it did say like, hey, Series S was really sought after on Black Friday. So I don't think the disparity between the two consoles will be the same this time. But I do think PlayStation will sell more, simply because I think it's Europe is such a stronghold for them. It'll be much closer last gen or this gen than it was in the US. And then I don't know how close. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, we'll have to wait and see how everything shakes out after you can just go to the store and buy any of these systems. You know, the chip shortage is definitely affecting a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We have one from Achievement that says, I love the weekly articles about Phil Spencer's opinion pieces. I think it steers the industry in the right direction. The man is a godsend. And Wolf Assassin says, hey, Rand and Jez, love playing Halo Infinite campaign, especially throwing the plasma barrels. I agree. That is never got old. You just like use the grapple shot to pull one towards you and then throw it at enemies and they all die. Hey, so why did someone from Forbes say Fable would be at the TGAs? Feeling salty now, should have known better. Yeah, there was a few people saying that Fable would be there, but Fable's I don't know the person's name off the top of my head. Fable's one of those, like, Fable's farther away. I think Fable's a 2024 title. So
Yeah, I agree.
I did not expect it to be at the TGAs at all. And I don't even know if it'll be at E3 next year. Maybe it will be, but I don't know. That's just one of the things about believing people on the internet. A lot of people are looking for clout and looking for followers, pretending they know something or whatever. And, you know, you got burned, which is unfortunate. Like you said, you should have known better. The video I made on Wednesday was like, okay, what is Xbox going to show? It's like Hellblade for sure. And I was like, maybe there could be something else. And that ended up being wrong. I was like, well, maybe Redfall would be there. And it wasn't. But I wasn't out there saying like all these games would be there. I was like Hellblade for sure. And then maybe Redfall. And Redfall didn't show up. So I guess I was 50-50 on that. But anyways, what else we got here? You know what? I think that'll be a good place to end the show, but we'll take some questions. If you guys want to ask anything, make sure you put it in the chat. We will definitely answer as many as we can. And I want to thank everybody for being here on this Friday, listening to the Xbox 2, whether you're engaging in the chat or just lurking or supporting the show with Super Chat, doesn't matter to us. We just love the fact that everybody's here. And we'll have this up on all the streaming services a little bit later,
Yes.
probably tomorrow. And
Yes.
go to xbox2.com, like Jez says, leave us a voice message or whatever, and we'll compile all the messages and make like a mini podcast for people to listen to if that's something you guys would want. Make sure you do that. So thank you guys. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. We appreciate everybody for spending their time here. It's like almost 3 hours, essentially. Sniper Elite 5 was revealed today, Jez, apparently, in an Xbox ID at Xbox Twitch stream, where also the Scorn trailer came out.
All right, I need to check that out.
2022.
Yeah.
So
I do like those games, the Sniper Elite games. I never finished them. Like I always I play them for a little while and like, yeah, this is really fun, blowing people's brains out, and then for whatever reason, I just end up dropping off them. I don't think they have really particularly great staying power, but I don't know. Have you ever played through any of them?
which game?
Sniper Elite.
I did. I played.
I always drop off them.
Yeah, I played. I think I played 2, 3, and 4. I didn't play 1. They're cool. I mean, they're fun for what they are, but some people like Zombie Army better than Sniper Elite. So, Face wants to know if I'm gonna play Horizon Zero Dawn before Forbidden West comes out. Yeah, most likely. I'll play that before the new one comes out. Question mark says, question here, PlayStation bought another studio. When do you guys expect the next move on Xbox? Sometime next year. Who knows when? Dark Sia, who's been a member for 29 months, says, great show. Thanks. You now next up for Wheel Time Episode 6. I watched Wheel Time Episode 6 last night because they come out on Thursday at like 7 p.m. Eastern when they get put up. So I watched it last night. Definitely an interesting episode. A lot of things happening. A lot of changes from the book. Man, they are changing a lot of things from the books, and a lot of people aren't happy about it. So definitely interesting things going on with the Wheel of Time TV show.
I've decided I'm gonna read Dune.
Oh,
That's
you're
gonna
gonna
be
read
my.
Dune. What? You're
I'm
not
gonna
gonna
read it.
play the Dune video game they announced yesterday? Dune Spice War
Oh
or whatever.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna play that as well. Oh man,
4X strategy
4X
game.
strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wolf Assassin wants to know how you guys feeling about Crossfire X. I mean, I think the campaign, which is what we saw yesterday, looked cool. I'm always down to play something by Remedy. So hopefully it's a cool game. I'm not interested in the multiplayer aspect of it though. Sampo says, will Project Cobalt, Project Midnight, or Fable release first? What do you think, Jez? An Exiles game, Compulsions game, or Fable? Which one's releasing first?
I think, man, that's a tough question. I would, if I was, this is based on nothing other than guesswork. But I would have to guess Compulsion's game probably comes out before either of those.
Yeah, my guess would be Project Midnight as well.
Yeah. I think Midnight's probably smaller in scope than Fable and it's probably been in development longer. And Cobalt is pretty early in development, so yeah.
RRD says, "Hey, thoughts on the Moon Studios guy talking about Xbox should go multiplat? Did you see that, Jez?"
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I mean, obviously he's got a vested interest in them going multiplat so he can get more money from the Ori games, which you know, he's probably thinking like the Ori games are never going to be on PlayStation because Microsoft own them and stuff, and that's bad for him. But that's the deal they signed up for. You know, they wouldn't have got the money to make those games if it wasn't for the exclusivity aspect. So it's all well and good saying that after the fact. So I disagree with that. Because if we move to a world where every company is multiplat, then where's the competition at, yo? I don't know.
It's in. It's weird because he's like, Microsoft should take the initiative and put their games everywhere else, and I'm just like, bro, Microsoft would put their games everywhere else if Sony or Nintendo would let Game Pass be on their systems, but they don't. They aren't. And I just find it funny that the guy's like basically saying like Microsoft should become a third-party publisher. And it's just like, is that what you're really arguing for? Like Microsoft needs, like, what do you say? Basically, like Microsoft needs to take their vision to the fullest or whatever. It's like you're only saying that because it's only would benefit you, you know, because you want to put your games on other consoles. Like I don't understand how it benefits Microsoft to put their games out elsewhere because it's about an exclusive storefront. That's the whole point. Like all the money from video games is made off of selling other people's content where you get a cut from it. If Microsoft had the console but then also was publishing games on PlayStation and Nintendo, the purpose of people spending money in your exclusive storefront is lessened. So you be taking in less money. Like sure, you be able to sell more copies of games, but individual software sales is not the business.
No.
So like the idea of being like, well, Microsoft should do this because that's their goal, it really speaks to like a complete misunderstanding of how I think these companies make their money.
I don't think it was a misunderstanding. I think it was narrative setting.
Oh,
because
you think he was okay? That makes sense.
I think he was purposefully misrepresenting it because it benefits him ultimately, you know. But my argument would be the game wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a company off getting a return on investment. This is not a charity, you know. you could self-publish any game you want on Steam, you know, but you're not going to have a budget to have 40 songs in the soundtrack, you know. You're not going to have that kind of budget to play with. So, you know, it's all well and good saying this stuff, but Microsoft's a business and they've got to make a return on investment too, and they have employees. So I think that's a short-sighted take, if indeed it is a take and not just narrative setting.
Yeah, well, I also think he needs to trying to get people out there to know who he is because his next game is multi-platform instead of exclusive, right? So Nobody on PlayStation knows who he is, know who Moon Studio is, knows how good Ori is because it was only on Xbox and only on Switch, because Xbox allowed it. But like, I find the idea of like, well, you need to go the whole way, and you need to put your games on PlayStation and Nintendo because some kids, they won't know who I am, or it's wrong that they'll be, if they have a PlayStation, they can't play Ori. It's just like, bro, like, what are you talking about? I don't get it. Like, but then it's like, if PlayStation allowed Game Pass, the games would be there. That's the whole point. But like, why would PlayStation want it? So they're not. So I find the whole like conversation just dumb.
Yeah.
But I kind of agree with what you say now that it's more narrative setting than anything else, really. Fragula says, "Is the 2 terabyte SSD out yet?" Is it out yet? I think it's out. I'm not sure though. It's $400 though. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Seth says, "I'm starting to worry that the chip shortage is going to cut this gen short. Progress on newer chips and tech proceed regardless of sales." I think, if anything, the chip shortage will make this generation longer, not shorter.
Yeah.
Personally. Arafat says, "Jez and Rand, somebody should go straight to Atlas and what's their relationship with Xbox? That should be a good article. Also, great show." Yeah, Jez, you should write an article about why Atlas hates Xbox.
Man, I think I'd struggle to get sources for that one, mate.
Yeah, probably, right? Let's see what else we got here. Asante says, "I've been reading the book and watched the show, and man, those changes are drastic." Yeah, they are pretty drastic. We'll see how everything comes together, but I knew there would be adaptation changes. Some of the stuff the stuff they're changing is like, really had to change that? That doesn't really, I don't get it, but whatever. I can appreciate the show for the show and the book for the books. Let's see. I think that's all the questions I see. So, yeah. Someone goes, Andrew goes, "People who read the books, people who read the books are the worst kind of people. The books are so much better. Oh, you should read the book. Shut up." Yeah, but you know what?
I'm gonna be like that. I'm gonna be like that about Dune. I'll be cool.
But Andrew, it's true. The books are usually always better. So I guess I should take your advice. I'll take your advice and just shut up. Anyways, yeah, that'll be the end of the show, guys. Really appreciate everyone being here. We'll be back hopefully Friday next week with another episode. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll definitely talk about something. And with that, hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend and keep